So this morning, we've got a terrific day of presentation. I think in some ways, actually, today is going to be a little bit more, let's say, advanced expert level than yesterday was. And we've got some terrific guest speakers who are coming in, Seth Besmertnik from Conductor, and then Danny Sullivan will be here later in the afternoon to talk about kind of some future of search stuff. Just a few housekeeping tips. If you find that you have lost anything, for example, last night I lost my laptop and left it at the Burke Museum in a cubby hole behind where they were serving drinks. Apparently I had one too many and then left without it. So this morning I'm going to go run back up there and grab it. If you find that you've lost anything, you can talk to Jillian, who'll be out in the hall arranging everything. Let's see, with the presentations, I think it's in your booklet, but in case if you missed today, I don't know how you hear me right now, but if you missed today or yesterday or any part of the sessions, you can get a DVD copy of this, and you'll see our friends here filming, and that will be available free to anybody who is here. All you have to do is fill out this little form that Scott's arranged for you, and that'll be set up. And then after the end of things today, which I think is at 3:45, we're going to pray that the sun is still out and go over to the Agua Verde Paddle Club. We've got kayaks you to get on the water, and we should have a big tarp up just in case it rains, barbecue, and all that kind of stuff. So it should be great. First up this morning are Will and Duncan from Distilled. Actually, I think Duncan, you're going to go first. So they're going to be presenting on some reputation management stuff, and I think they're going to be getting very deep into it, probably deeper than anything I've seen, at least, at any shows in the past. So I'm really excited to introduce them and have them come here. Welcome, Duncan.
In case it rains. We've come over from the UK, throwing it down. Anyway, so what we're going to talk about today, where's that little picture? What we're going to talk about today is the kind of things that we'll talk about with reputation management. So kind of search results, what the sorts of things we do. Will's going to talk about some of the tactics. Keeping it natural, we're a huge fan of that. Making it look like you haven't done anything makes everything just seem that much better. Some of the pitfalls, and then Will's going to just rattle off some techniques at the end, some tips that will hopefully give you some ideas. So if we start with why you should care, let me quote from eConsultancy. 7 out of 10 British consumers will not click through to the website if the search results contain negative comments about them. So SEO is kind of pointless if there's a result below you is saying something negative, something bad. Doesn't matter whether you're top, you're going to lose 7 out of those 10 visitors. So the other reason is you don't have to be doing something bad for this negative reputation to take hold. Let's take someone high profile like Rand. Potential clients almost always, I guess, will search for SEO Moz, will search for Rand's name. And with anyone successful, you start getting negative comments, people disagree with something you've said. If any of those start ranking, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to start losing potential clients. And this is what the reputation management is here to solve. So Virgin's are kind of de facto example of someone who's kind of got this. It obviously helps that they've got lots and lots of kind of fairly distinct business units, so they've got lots of strong, powerful domains. But the first result for Virgin, albeit a slightly dodgy search phrase, they've pretty much got it covered. One thing to say, we took this screenshot and we're all right. We did another presentation, and we're putting the slides together after we took this one. Did exactly the same search, and there was a Google News result in there. Universal search had kicked in, there was a Google News result. It wasn't anything to do with Virgin, but didn't have a particularly good headline. I'm going to leave it up to your imagination. So it's worth knowing that no matter how well you do, there are things that contribute. Universal search brings in news results sometimes, brings in YouTube videos, all of that sort of stuff. There's only so much you can control it, but it's certainly worth having a go and getting it into the sort of stage that Virgin's got it. So there's then neutral results. We kind of talk about neutral results. We would normally classify Wikipedia as a neutral result. So if you've got a company or a person, high-profile person, they're on Wikipedia, we normally class that as a fairly neutral result. It's obviously got the potential to say negative things about you, but in general they tend to be fairly balanced. We also tend to class things that just aren't about you. So it's either not about you, someone with the same name, sorry, but isn't you, someone with a similar company name, or something that's just ranking for some bizarre reason. They're not too bad, and coming on to keeping it natural later, there are actually some quite good things to have in there. It makes it look less like you've tried to sort these things out. I think negative results kind of speak for themselves. Kate Moss, cocaine, story ranks, not good. Some of the examples we've seen, there's always things like that where it's just news reporting, unfounded allegations, personal attacks, political attacks. Political is one of these ones where it's kind of your opposition's job to make you look bad, I guess. They just have to disagree with everything you've said. You don't want those getting into the search results if at all possible. Seems fairly obvious, but next time you're about to publish that controversial link bait piece, just double check, think it through. Sometimes the links will be worth their weight in gold, but like we said earlier, if you suddenly start ranking, you may start ranking a lot better because of those links, but if some people disagree with what you've said or don't like the controversial aspect you've taken, and they start ranking for your name, you're going to lose the click-through rates, and the point of the whole exercise is kind of lost. One thing that we've not seen as too much a problem, so for you guys starting to offer reputation management, we were a bit worried about effectively dodgy clients. That's not seemed to be a problem. Most of the people who've come to us have been actually really high profile. They just want to kind of clean things up a bit. No one really coming to us having done something really dodgy, a really dodgy client that we were trying to cover things up. Lucy from Distilled wrote a blog post about how reputation management was like a beauty regime, talking about the fact that there's three periods. There's kind of before a crisis happens, during a crisis. I think the crisis is obviously she's got lots of ick on her face. And then after the crisis. So the sort of things you want to do beforehand, that is when you want to try and go out and you want to dominate those top 10 results. You want things that you control if possible, bearing in mind they're trying to keep it looking natural. So preemptive tends to be the easiest things. At this stage, it's worth pointing out you should try and get hold of as many social profiles as you want. Now, I'm not a huge fan of getting social profiles ranking for reputation management, but the last thing you want is someone else getting hold of your social profile and pretending to be you. So sign up to Twitter, sign up to Facebook, all of those things. Make sure you get company names, personal names. Start buying up domain names again, your name, hyphenated, misspellings, all of that sort of good stuff. And then it's down to creating optimized content, which is just SEO, as you know and love. So during a crisis, things tend to fall more into crisis management. The things you need to do, you need to monitor for the results. There's lots of tools out there that do it. We have one at Distilled. There's Tracker, which Andy Beale's got. That way you can get everything that's written about you, your company, your brand, your product, and you can decide whether to engage. And I'll touch on that a bit later. And then after a crisis, so somebody is ranking for your company name, let's say, this is actually the hardest thing to do. You've got to somehow get, if they're ranking number 2, you've got to get 9 results above it, is the main aim. Get that onto the page 2. At least get it below the fold, but onto page 2 is the ideal. Getting 9 results to rank above it is a big effort often. So I'll touch just quickly on, this is our process for what happens during a crisis. We like to set this out in advance with our clients. We quite often have a crisis strategy document with them to decide who's going to, effectively, who's going to decide on the steps of action. Some of this is us, some of this will be them, some of this will be their legal advisors. So the things you need to do, you need to monitor for results. Anytime you find anything, you need to have a look at it and assess the damage. Is it likely to rank? Is the title tag got your brand name in it or your personal name in it? Are they saying something good? If they're saying something good, great. If they're saying something bad, worry. And especially start worrying if it's on a powerful domain and the normal SEO things have happened, so it's in the title tag and all of that good stuff. Deciding on a response. Sometimes you want to just ignore it. Sometimes the worst thing you can do is start trying to engage with someone. You may just rile them, you may just get them the wrong way. Often it's worth ignoring them. When you do need to engage, don't make it worse, for heaven's sake. You need to be careful, you need to tell the truth. We quite often recommend trying to take it offline. So if it's a blog post, don't just engage by filling out a comment. Everyone can see it. But also don't forget that if you send an email, quite often that email will end up online as well. So you've got to, don't say anything in an email that you wouldn't say in a comment. But quite often in an email, it does just kind of take it offline. Often makes them seem a bit more reasonable, I guess. So I'm going to hand over to Will, who's a bit worried yesterday that he just didn't get to say anything exciting.
Hey guys. So this first session is a fairly short one, partly because everybody probably needs to get another dose of coffee before looking forward to Jane's social media stuff. And I didn't mean that. Sorry. Anyway, we're trying to keep this kind of quick, as advanced as we can. The first half, obviously, there's a lot about strategy. So that's the advanced stuff is all about how you interact with the clients. It's all about making sure that you have the processes in place, just like enterprise SEO. Less of it is actually about the technical stuff. A lot more of it is about setting up the right processes with the clients, knowing who the stakeholders are, making sure that before a crisis hits, you know who's going to respond, you know how they're going to decide whether they're going to respond, etc. But all that's what we've been talking about up till now. I'm now going to talk about tactics. Everybody here is an expert SEO. You know how to do SEO. When we're talking about reputation management in the broader sense, there's a whole load of things that are important about how you behave, how you present yourself in a PR sense, all of that kind of stuff. But this is just about the SERPs. This is just about the rankings. And I'm assuming you know how to do SEO, so this is how to apply it to the reputation sphere. First of all, you're going to need some new content, almost certainly. You've got subdomains of your main powerful domain, or any other domains that you have. You saw, actually Virgin is mainly on new domains, but there's a number of examples of strong subdomains. We saw one, I think, yesterday with the IBM, and they have a subdomain for the ThinkPad as well as the separate domain. Subdomains work very well. When you're working with high-profile individuals, we've seen that these kind of guys often have affiliations with very powerful organisations. Never mind the one they're running normally. They are chairpeople of charities, they're patrons of charitable organisations, they're on the board of directors of big companies, all of that kind of stuff. They often have content on those big, powerful domains already, but it tends to be very poorly optimised for their name and not linked to internally and so on and so forth. They often have the power to change that. So that just looks like regular SEO for those enterprise kind of sites. Sometimes they're not mentioned. Sometimes they don't have a page. They're donating all this money to some charity and they're the patron of it, and they're mentioned on the site, but they don't have their own page. That page can normally get created very easily. And it's easy to get links to those kind of things as well, because it's perfectly natural to link to that from other places that you already have content on the web. Hosting content, effectively leveraging the power of other people's domains. So YouTube drops in with universal search very often, very quickly into the first page of search results. As we've talked about, profile pages, not always the most powerful thing, not always the most recommended thing, but it can be very powerful. Twitter ranks for all kinds of people's names. It ranks for Obama, I think, and if you're using it actively, that can be a really, really powerful, really good tool. A few tactics that it's easy to forget in all the excitement. You're still doing SEO. Still think about keywords. It's not just about one phrase. There are variations of people's names. People search with titles, for example. They search with middle initials. They search with shorter versions of people, full names and more friendly names. And they search for online handles. They search for nicknames. The long tail also extends outside of just people and brand names. It extends into issues. So when Apple had the problems with the iPod screen scratching, people were searching for iPod scratch screen and all kinds of variants of that. Now, in those situations, it's going to be much harder to own the search results because there are going to be some pretty powerful sites that have written all about that. But at least you can have your side of the story across. In that situation, they can have an official press release that says, you know what, it's not that bad. It's people who've kept their iPod in the pocket with their keys or whatever. Keeping it natural. Duncan mentioned this already. A lot of, certainly individuals, it's a lot more natural, I think. A lot of people are used to brands doing this kind of thing, but when individuals are doing it, it's often something that they don't want it to be completely obvious that has happened. So, a few tactics quickly to run through. Look for other people who have the same name or a similar name. Often, Google will interpret it fairly widely, and you do get people who have the same surname ranking and things like that, especially if they're on very strong domains. And one of the things that we really like is other people's Wikipedia pages, because they rank like crazy, and there's no risk to them because they're about somebody else. So if they get edited for whatever reason, then that's not going to affect your reputation. SERP replacement is, I don't know if that's a widely used term, it's what we call it, when you very often see, for example, we've got a client who, there was an allegation made about a fraud case, subsequently thrown out, but a strong newspaper website, ranking number 2, with a title all about them and $20 million fraud. That obviously doesn't look very good. So getting lots of things to rank above that is going to be very hard because it's on a big, powerful newspaper website and it's optimized for their name. So instead of trying to get lots of things ranking above it, they're a fairly high-profile person, so they've been written about on that same newspaper loads of other times. So do a cite command, look for other stories about them, find some nice ones, find the most optimized ones where they're mentioned in the title and it's neutral or positive, and link to some of those. And it's, again, completely natural to do this, because you can link off your media page, you can link off your personal website. It's completely normal to link to good press coverage. And it jumps in place of often you get the indented result first, then they flip over, and then you do another one, and all of a sudden the bad story's gone. And that's powerful, and it looks completely natural, because you only get generally two search results from one domain on the page. Universal search. Mentioned already that it's common for things like YouTube videos to drop in. So use that to your advantage. People see it all the time, and therefore it looks like a very natural thing. The bottom one, this is probably pretty extreme. I don't think we've actually recommended any of our clients change their name. But you could. And certainly the middle initial thing, if your business card presents you in a certain way, that's likely to be the exact phrase that people use when they search for you. And it gives you a chance just to switch that. You know, I could, if I was trying to cover something up, which I'm not, I could start calling myself William, or I could use a middle initial. And, you know, you probably, like I said, it's pretty extreme. Getting married works pretty well though. A few pitfalls quickly. Google likes diversity. If you do manage to get this and it's all just singing one tune, but there are other tunes out there, beware, because they like to pull in a diverse set of search results. So it's very tempting when you're link building some new content to use everything you've got at your disposal. You've got all these, you've got a corporate domain, you've got your own domain, you've got all these social media profiles, you've got all this stuff. Why not point all of them at the new thing you're launching? Well, that starts to look a little bit suspicious, and everything starts to look a bit homogenous. And so try and keep yourself, use Excel, use whatever, to remember what links to where, and try and keep it at least separated into 2 camps. Another pitfall, universal search, not always a good thing. We saw with the Virgin example. It can just jump in there, and it'll rank number 1. You know, it's above the first natural search result. So, to be honest, there's not a lot you can do about that, except wait till it goes away. But obviously watch out for where they end up ranking in the long term. There are some things, sometimes you can do this around brand and product stuff. If you've got a strong enough PR machine, you can start putting out the next good story, and that will replace the last story. I had something else to say about come back to it if I remember. And the long tail never really goes away. When people are searching for the exact issue, then they're going to find it. Google's pretty good at information retrieval. There's always going to be ways of finding these stories, so you can never hope to get rid of it completely. And I mentioned that you can try and rank for some of these issues, but you need to do that with real care. It's worth it sometimes if you've got a strong, if you feel you're really in the right, you've got a really strong case to present, but you are associating those keywords with your name and your domain. And so it does just make a stronger argument for those other stories to rank for your name as well. And so you do need to be careful about that. I'm not going to linger on this too much, but we did worry that we'd end up with a load of shady clients, but it doesn't seem to have been a problem. Link building is hard. By the very nature of what you're trying to do here, you're trying to get people to link to things that aren't really the best answer, because you're wanting to rank number 2, number 3, number 4. So, whereas the natural place to link is normally the number 1, with the anchor text of somebody's name or the product name. So that can be tough, and link bait is often either hard or you really don't want to do it because the client's actually trying to keep a low profile, so they don't necessarily want to be on the front page of Dig. I think this is a phrase we have coined. We call it wiki circularity. You need to watch out for this one because we've seen this happen with a very high profile client with an accusation of having an illegitimate child that they'd never, a secret love child, and it's just completely not true. But it somehow ended up on Wikipedia. You know, I mean, who knew there's stuff that isn't true on Wikipedia? Shock. But once it's on there, journalists check their sources on Wikipedia and write about it in a national newspaper. And of course, once it's in the national newspaper, that's enough of a source for Wikipedia. And you are never going to get an editor to remove something by saying it's not true when it's in a national newspaper. They're just going to go, well, look, it's over there. So really, once this has happened, you're kind of, in all kinds of trouble. But
what if they have a retract?
So yes, sometimes, but it has to be a strong enough retraction. Normally, when newspapers print retractions, they kind of go, yeah, so maybe we didn't have a very good source for this, but everybody still thinks it's true. And yes, if they do come out and they publish a whole new page that says this was not true, then maybe you can get the editors to deal with that, but it is tough. And so really this is just another argument for monitoring, for finding out when the rumours are out there early and squashing them early, before they get into this self-reinforcing loop. So I'm going to try and speed up a little bit now. We don't have a lot of time, but again, this is supposed to be advanced, so I'm not going to go in depth in these things. I'm just trying to give you little ideas that are going to hopefully stick in your mind and you might be able to use them. Use your own domain. Don't just use it to rank. If you're ranking for a product name or a person's name, you've got plenty of juice for ranking for that. Give some away to some of your other domains. 3 or 1 pages out of your main site to other domains or other subdomains. Don't forget that you've got legal tactics to use. If they infringe your copyright, if there's libel involved, and I think the UK actually has stronger, more stringent libel laws. They're talking about people suing people in London just because we've got stronger laws about it. The DMCA, you can get instant results with Google with a DMCA takedown. They will literally take it straight out of the index and then put it back in only if the person files it. I forget what it's called. Anyway, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not giving you legal advice, but speak to your lawyers. If you post any YouTube videos, turn comments off. There's nothing worse than you ending up with this page ranking and then everybody abusing you in the comments. Ooh. I'll put another slide in there. Anyway, it gets grey. There's a session a little bit later on about buying links generally for SEO. In reputation management, don't even think about it, just buy them. Don't worry about it. Because what's the worst that's going to happen? Mainly you're not linking to your own domains. So the worst case is you get a newspaper website banned. And that doesn't seem very likely. And in fact, if it happens, I think there's probably a lot of people who'd like to know about it. So, whenever you're talking about pages on newspapers or pages on, all kinds of places, anything that isn't your own domain, there's no point even worrying about it because all the downsides are gone. It gets even darker. There's been a whole discussion about black hat tactics, and this whole thing is not about black hat. And there was discussion on the blog, and I think Rand put up the questionnaire. Everybody said they'd like to know about stuff, but I'd like to make very clear: we don't authorize this, condone this, recommend this. I have never done this, but Google has a URL removal tool, and which you can use on anybody's website, but you can only use it on a page that isn't there at the moment. So if somebody's server has downtime and returns an error code, you can do a URL removal, and it will apparently drop out for up to 6 months. So, like I say, not recommending that, but it's worth it. It's just, you've got to know about these things. Seriously, I've never done it. So that was rapid fire. I hope that we've given you some little bits and pieces of things to think about. Certainly I find the most useful thing often isn't somebody going into great depth, it's just giving out some of those little tips and tricks. But we've got time for a few questions, if anybody has any. Yeah?
I know that information you put online could never ever go away. There's sites like archive.org that archive it. Any way to control that?
I believe that, I think some people have had some luck with legal approaches to that kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure with the archive. It tends, obviously because it's not going to rank anymore, it tends to be, it tends to be pretty hidden away. So yes, it's still out there somewhere, but we tend to worry about it a lot.
I think the thing to recognise or realise is that this isn't a tactic that's going to remove bad things from the search results. It's a tactic to put them as far down the search results as possible. As we pointed out, if people are trying to find things and someone has written, you can't really do very much to get rid of them. It's purely about making sure that the 99% of people who don't go beyond the first page of search results don't find those things about you. One right at the back.
What's some good tools for tracking what's being said? Did you mention?
So we have a tool at Distilled, reputation.distilled.co.uk. Andy Beale has one called Tracker, which I think is trackur.com. Google Alerts is a good way. The problem we found with Google Alerts, which I think is what our tools tried to solve, is that it quite often, certainly if you've got a name like Distilled, quite often what things were said about us were about whiskey. We do like whiskey, but they're not always about us. Any others? All right to the back.
Have you had any success using press releases to help push down negative news stories? Have you tried that tactic at all? Press releases, maybe inane press releases about product launches or charity events, things like that. Have you utilized that to maybe in the universal search push the news results?
That's certainly a tactic that's worth bearing in mind to try and push down results in universal search. Certainly inane press releases aren't likely to help in the long run because they're not likely to be the thing that ranks on page 1. But they're certainly quite a good tactic to, if universal search has been triggered, but to try and replace the news result that's there with something more generic, I guess.
Yeah, I would say, without the inane part of that, so basically make it as genuine as you can. Particularly with larger people, larger companies, any kind of financial release, because there's a lot of people who are mandated to cover that. So if you release, obviously that depends on there's a load of regulations about what you can and can't say, but if they can put out anything financial, then there's a lot of people that have to report that.
I used to work for a university, and we had a shooting on our campus, a lot of people were killed, and we have a Wikipedia article that is still related to that incident, ranking number 2, and we've tried linking to the main Wikipedia entry for the university from the university's website and all kinds of tactics.
So that's going to be an example where ranking lots of things above it is going to be very, very tough, and it comes back to the SERP replacement idea that I was talking about before. One thing that can work quite well with Wiki in particular is because you can change other pages, you can increase the internal linking to the main university page. So do a search on Wikipedia for mentions of the university, and every time it's mentioned, go and edit that and link it to the main page. Obviously you have to do that carefully. If that's all that the account that you set up has ever done, then editors are going to get a bit suspicious. But as long as you're making useful changes, that's a good change to Wikipedia. Most times when people are on Wikipedia and there's a mention of the university, having that as a link to the university's Wikipedia page is going to be really valuable. So that internal linking is very strong off Wikipedia. Any more? Looks like we might be done.
Good morning, everybody. My name's Jane. I work at SEO Mars, and I'm going to go over some tactics and best practices that you can use for SEO using social networks, not necessarily just social media marketing, but just the social networks. I just wanted to get a show of hands here. How many of you use a main social networking site like Twitter or Facebook? How many of you are solely using Twitter? How many of you use Twitter on a regular basis for things other than personal use, marketing? Oh no, I don't want to set it as my home location. Thank you. Marketing purposes on Twitter. So a fair number of you. Some of you, this might be somewhat of a refresher. Others, it looks like this is going to be some good new information. So I think the first thing that people often ask when they're deciding whether or not to use social networks for marketing and for SEO purposes is why bother? It can be a huge time suck. As those of us who spend quite a lot of time on Twitter know, all of a sudden 10 minutes has passed, you've had a conversation with people, you think, crap, that's 10 less minutes I have in my day to do some work. Well, it isn't necessarily a waste of time. You can use social networks for fantastic branding purposes. One of the really good examples I've seen of this of late is BlackBerry Geeks or bbgeeks.com. And if you guys are online right now, you can fire up Twitter, twitter.com/bbgeeks. It's the Twitter account for a website that is basically, it's for BlackBerry users. They've done a really good job on Twitter of creating a great user base. They're honest about who controls the account. They're not pretending to be a person who just happens to be interested in Blackberries. They're branded as themselves. They post really frequently. They offer discounts and incentives, prizes for their followers and their friends, and they're building a really good brand that way. One other thing that's really good is they actually reply to people. You ask a question about your BlackBerry phone, because those of us who have them know that they tend to break down quite a lot, and they'll actually reply to you. They'll help you out. And I think that they're a really good business model for people to start using social media for those purposes. Some other good examples are Downing Street. The British government has a Twitter account. I think it's twitter.com/Downing Street. Going and looking at that account is also a really good way to see how politicians can use it for their own advantages. A bad example of Twitter branding is Kanye West. I think he's only, yeah, everyone laughs as though that's really surprising. I think he's only updated a few times. It's usually generic press release type information. Do what bbgeeks.com does, do what Downing Street does, don't do what Kanye does. Duncan kind of already went over this, but these things also can rank really well in search engines. Social networks can rank, your profiles can rank really well in search engines. So grab your company's names on popular sites. We had big trouble a little while ago when somebody had gone in and registered twitter.com/SEOmars, and they weren't saying particularly nice things about us. The real kicker about this was, if I go to the internet and search for our company's name, it's ranking, is that 4th or 5th? Yeah. Another thing I saw this morning, and it's not actually ranking anymore, and I'm a little bit upset about that because it was a good example, was our ICANN wiki page that I created a little while ago was ranking 1 above our Twitter profile when I looked at it from home this morning. So just an aside, you might want to go and make a company profile on there as well. But yeah, it's ranking very highly. Click through now, and it's all our stuff. It's branded with our name, and we wait. So yeah, this is us now. We're in control of this account. But before, it was saying not terribly nice things about us. It was pretending to be Rand. There was a picture of him there. Not nice. So make sure to go and grab your Twitter account, especially. Oh my God, why is this guy popping up? He's always there to ruin the party. So, some other sites you want to grab your account on is Facebook. Probably as a fan page if you're a company, because Facebook blocks a lot of names for profile pages. Like, you can't call your profile page the International Blue Widget Association, because it's probably blocked out words like international from becoming people's names. Kind of clever like that. But you can make a fan page that usually ranks pretty well, and it's indexed, unlike profile pages. FriendFeed, Plurk. Plurk doesn't rank. Plurk is another Twitter-like site. It doesn't rank very well right now. They have some SEO problems. But you want to grab it anyway for reputation management purposes. Be careful with MySpace, because people who have MySpace accounts have often misused them badly. So you want to be careful that you're not being tainted by association of being a spammer on MySpace. So yeah, this doesn't apply just only to traditional. Are we here? I think my microphone stopped working.
Watch, I'm going to hit it really hard, and you're all going to be like, yes, your microphone did stop working.
Can you guys hear me if I just shout? Yeah. Okay, there we go. So yeah, it doesn't just apply to traditional social networking sites. For example, if you guys all have SEO Mars profiles, if you go and search for whatever you called your profile name, if you called it your own name, your company name, which is quite common for people to do, those usually rank really, really well because it's a strong domain. So you want to go and find whichever particular websites there are in your niche that allow you to register accounts and create profiles on those websites and maintain them, because you don't want to have a whole bunch of things ranking really highly and people click through and there's nothing there. So sharing information on social networks is one of the main reasons that we use them, and nearly all of them have features built into them that specifically allow for this. RSS feeds for Facebook notes. Twitter feed is a service that uses RSS to post articles and blog posts directly to a Twitter account. Okay. However, like a lot of things with Twitter, it's sometimes broken. Anyone who has used that service knows that generally everything that can go wrong will go wrong with Twitter. One thing to watch out for with Twitter feed is if you set up RSS feeds to point at Twitter and it breaks down, one thing that happened a little while ago is that this happened, and a lot of people went and thought, oh, well, it just must be my account that's broken. Sorry. And they went and created more and more Twitter feed accounts thinking, well, it's obviously something to do with me. So then when it started working again, every time they post a blog post, 5 or 6 new updates would arrive on their Twitter account and thus be posted to all their friends of the same blog post. And that kind of gets annoying if you're using the service and you're following someone. And people can unfollow you really easily for that. Pounce is a pretty good service for allowing you to share files, links, events. Sharing files is something that is pretty new. On the big sites like Facebook and Twitter, you can't do that. So that's a good thing to use for sharing files. And FriendFeed has 43 different ways that you can share content, like YouTube, blog posts, Flickr, virtually anything that you probably use for social networking or social media, you can share on FriendFeed. However, as I'll go over later, you have to use these things with care, because if you're labeled as a spammer, and you're or even just labeled as annoying, it's very, very difficult to shake that. And people will unfollow you and unfriend you really quickly if you become annoying. So social networks are about discussions. How do you find the discussion and join it? I mean, you know that there are literally millions of people out there talking, but how do you find them? I mean, you're not necessarily going to be able to click through thousands of accounts. Well, Twitter has something built into it that was really, really useful until, again, it stopped working. You used your Google Talk Instant Messenger. You added Twitter at twitter.com as a contact. You would open the chat window to Twitter at twitter.com, and you could automatically update your Twitter account like that. The really useful thing was you could type in track keyword into that window, and it would send you updates. Like if anyone across the entire Twitter network mentioned that particular word in any update that they put on, unless their account was protected or private, it would send you an instant message with that word in it. It would send you whatever they'd said. Well, that was really useful because I was tracking things like SEO Mars, UMars, my name, my username, various other terms that related to either me or a company, and you can find out exactly what people are saying about you in real time, and that was fantastic. And of course, it doesn't work anymore. And they say they'll bring it back though, so I thought that it was important to include this. So figuring out what you're going to track, that's pretty easy. Just traditional keyword research. It's usually anywhere between 20 and hundreds of words that you might want to track that has anything to do with your business. Seeing that it's offline right now, the way that we do this now is through search.twitter.com, which formerly known as Surmise. Type in whatever you're interested in tracking, and it will show you everyone's, as long as they're public, real-time results of what they're saying. You have to refresh it yourself. It's not like it's just going to send you things, but it will tell you when there's new things that you need to, when there's new messages and you need to refresh the page. It will say 6 new messages, press refresh to see them. I was putting this presentation together during the California earthquake. So I looked for earthquake, and sure enough, people, just message after message was all it was about the earthquake. So once you've found people who you can talk to, people who are potentially interested in your things, the tricky bit is actually starting to talk to them. Because if you're just, if you're just using Twitter and you happen to say something and then you get some spammy message like, well, why don't you come to my website and check out my stuff? Well, you're not going to like that. You're going to think that that's spammy. Not very long ago, I wrote a message into my personal Twitter account about wanting to make a peach Bellini, which is a rather horrifying drink, including peach schnapps, peach vodka, champagne, and orange juice. And yeah, it sounds pretty disgusting. It's not. It's quite nice. But I checked my replies tab not very long later, and this account called Girly Drinks had messaged me and had said had pointed me to a really good recipe. And I thought, at first I thought, oh, that's useful, and I thought, wait, that's interesting from a marketing point of view. So I clicked the link, and they'd sent me to the Food Network, which is not their website, and I thought that's very interesting, because it would be so tempting for them to send me to one of their own properties. Because I obviously went to their account, I had a look at who they were. They're a .com, girlydrinks.com. They could have easily sent me to something that they'd created, and I thought that's really smart. Don't send someone to your own site when you're starting a conversation with them, unless your resource is just by far and away the best. Because everyone, even if they don't know anything about social media marketing, they're going to think, yeah, that's a little bit self-promotional. So I was impressed, sent me to something relevant, sent me to somebody else's website. I started following them. They were doing really good branding that way. And that's just going for the long-term goal over quick clicks, quick interest, because people are actually going to take notice of you if you're really helpful. And I think that although it's really tempting to send someone to your own site, it's far more useful to go for the long-term goal. Of course, the more competitive your niche is, the more careful you have to be. Talking about alcoholic drinks, as fun as that is, it's not really in the same league as talking about mortgages, insurance, anything like that. Go in and type insurance, homeowners insurance, I think obviously is what I use for the search, into Twitter's search feature. You see someone say, after a morning of calling around for homeowners insurance, I've decided insurers should pay more attention to who's answering their phones. This person's obviously pissed off. But if you're selling homeowners insurance, they're also a potential customer. You have to be really, really careful before talking to this person, because they're not in a good mood. And they're going to be even more sensitive to being spammed than usual. So for all the temptation in the world, do not send them your phone number, a link to your website. Send them to a resource page. Send them to someone, just the best thing you can think of, and they're going to think, well, this person knows what they're talking about. I might follow them. I might keep an eye on their account, look at the branding on their page to see who they are, why they know what they're doing. Again, once you're labelled as a spammer or annoying, you can't shake it. Just some quick other things to track in something like search.twitter.com, or if the tracking thing ever comes back online. Your company's names, clients' names, and domain names, because sometimes those are different. We're SEO Mars and we're SEOMars.org, but if you're bbgeeks.com and you happen to call yourself Blackberry Geeks, or people refer to you as that by accident, if that's not your real name, well, you want to make sure that you're getting all of those results in. And obviously that kind of leads into misspellings of both. I think people generally spell SEO Mars okay, but I was always tracking SEO Moss as well with an S, because every now and again that happens. And if you've got a name like mine that people often misspell, the last name doesn't have an E in it, everyone always puts an E in it, track that as well.
That would be the British spelling.
That would be the English spelling. Competitors' domain names and misspellings as well. It's kind of goes without saying. So once you've actually started using these sites, personalize them. Nothing says spam and lazy more than if you go to a MySpace page or a Twitter page that allows customization with color or whatever, and even a picture, and you have nothing. You've just got the generic avatar, the blue background or the white background on MySpace. Facebook you can't customize, but you can always add a picture at least and appear to be active. You know, because people, they don't want to interact with someone who's lazy, and they don't want to interact with an RSS feed. The notes thing here is taken from Facebook, where you can have your blog posts or things that you write automatically updating a Facebook account. But if that's all you do, no one really cares. No one really wants to take part in that, have you in their community, because, well, frankly, you're kind of boring and you just seem like a robot. TechCrunch, however, Michael Arrington, is a really good example of how you can use both a personal touch with an RSS feed and with a company branding. Because if you have a look at the example I have up here, the first tweet there, the latest one, US lawmakers look to permaban cell phones in flight. That's coming from Twitter feed. That's automatically updating his account. The one underneath it says something about him going to the dentist. That's Michael Arrington talking as a person. And that's why one of the reasons he has so many followers is because people are actually interested in hearing both about what TechCrunch is doing and about what he's doing. So yes, even if the account represents a company, speak to people as a person. That's what we're trying to do with the SEO account right now that we've only just got back in control of. And sometimes it can be hard to sort of come across as a company and as a person, because you're wondering, well, how much personalization should I really put into this? But people will appreciate it if you sound like a human. So pushing viral content after you've become an active member. After you've become an active member. Don't immediately start getting followers and immediately start pushing your stuff, because again, it's spammy. And do it somewhat irregularly. People will take far more notice of your stuff if you update, you know, I know, ask for links or ask for click-throughs once a day, once every few days. Don't do it all the time, because it gets, you might not think that it's all that often. You might think, oh, well, 2 a day, you know, and all the tweets in all the world, or all the Facebook requests in all the world, it's not that much. Well, it isn't, but people are really sensitive. For something like Facebook, you've got the share feature, which is a far more passive way of getting people to your content. You click share on something on Facebook, it just posts to your profile. If you're known for posting interesting stuff, people are going to click through without you having to ask. I've got an example here of Rebecca's Plurk profile, where she quite often links to interesting things on Dig. Sometimes they're things that she's dug, sometimes they're things that she's written, or that someone who she has an active interest in has written. But she posts enough interesting stuff, and on an irregular enough basis, that they get click-throughs and they get votes, and people will comment and say, well, that was really interesting, because she does it with care. Also on Twitter, you don't have to keep repeating your stuff, because with this new thing that people are doing called retweet, if you've posted something really interesting, they'll copy and paste it and put it up again if they think that it's something their followers would also like. So there's really no need to go overboard with stuff like that. Some things that I would say it's okay to do, and some things it's not okay to do. It's okay to link to a Dig or a Reddit page. That's totally fine. But do be aware of the fact that Dig, apparently, you know, if you want people to vote on your story on Dig, apparently they monitor where referrals come from. It is somewhat of a tinfoil hat theory that they do this, but it does seem to be true that if you get too many people coming from the same place, especially somewhere like Facebook messages, Twitters, things like that, that they have been known to penalise stories for that. One thing you might want to do instead is, like the second point says, just link to the content itself and include a Dig This button, or link to a more generic Dig page, like the upcoming page, somewhere where you know the link is at. So it's not quite so obvious to Twitter that all of these people are coming from one source and are digging the story. You know, you make the paper trail slightly harder to follow. It's not okay to expect your contacts to register new accounts to vote up your content. This has happened. This has happened to me. I got a request from someone who wanted me to vote for something on, I think it was Propeller, and I had a Propeller account and I couldn't log in and it wouldn't send me my password. And I told them this, and they're like, "Will you create a new account so you can vote on it?" I'm like, "No, I'm not going to go through the process of finding a new email address and creating a new account just to give you one vote." And that's aggravating. Don't expect people to create new accounts to vote for your things. And don't repost the same links over and over again. Twice is enough. 3 if you have a huge number of followers and you put a bunch of time in between when you post things. I've been guilty of that. I've been guilty of posting things over and over again. It doesn't work. People get annoyed. Never again. Don't do it. Link for a vote. Look for views, not just votes. You know, we talk a lot about voting and social media marketing, and we talk a lot about getting your stuff popular. Will Critchlow, new Moz blog post link. People are more likely to click on that because it looks like he's just interested. You know, he thinks it's something interesting that you might want to read. He's not asking for a vote. It's not an automated blog post submission. I clicked on it, and I also thought it was a really good example. So there you go. So onto some real quick linking techniques for social networking. URL shortening services are really popular. For those of you who haven't heard of it, I assume most of you have. You've got a really long URL, like especially dynamic URLs get really, really long. You can go to a site like tinyurl, put the URL in, it gives you one back that's only something like 8 or 9 characters long. For social networking, that's really important because big, unseemly URLs are not things that people want to click on or link to. And some services like Plurk and Twitter, they limit the number of characters you can use to 140. However, tinyurl is rarely your best option, in my opinion. However, it is the one that Twitter automatically uses. If you put a long URL in, press update, it will come up as a tiny URL in your profile and in the feeds of your friends. So be slightly less lazy. Use a site like, I don't really know how you're supposed to pronounce this. I think it's bit.ly or bit.ly. This is a URL shortening service that also gives you a bunch of stats to go with your submissions. It knows some things about your submissions that analytics and stats packages don't. If you get referrals from things like Twitter clients like Twitbin, things that people use on their desktop to interact with these services, your traditional analytics and stats packages will show it as no referring link. They don't know where it came from. Bitly knows where it came from because it went through them, and it will give you, as I had on the previous slide, it will give you a breakdown of how many people have clicked through, where they came from, and it will also give you a mirrored URL if your site happens to go down, and it will remember, I think, the last, does anyone know, is it 5 or 15? I've got both of those in my head. It will remember the last however many number of sites you put in there. So if you link to a New York Times page, a Washington Post page, your own website, it will remember all of those and all of those stats for, I think it's up to 5 or up to 15 entries. It's pretty useful, and you can save all that information for yourself as well. Now that's something that your analytics package can't do, especially if you're linking to somebody else's website, like if you've been guest blogging somewhere, or you link to a newspaper. You can't get into their account, into their analytics, but you can use it through what Bitly will tell you. It also keeps an accurate count of all your visits, so it's not like you're guessing, well, I think that one probably came from Twitter, but I'm not sure. It's dead accurate. So not to go on too much about the service, but and I've got nothing to do with them. I just think they're cool. 15 URLs. It remembers the last 15 URLs you've created. Provides an API. The thumbnail image of the page, as you saw on my example earlier, which is I don't know. That's not really useful. It's more just aesthetic, but it's pretty cool. And a mirror of the page if you go down. So it's definitely, I would say, one of the better URL shortening services you can use. Finding direct links. Sometimes most services are really good at no following all of their links, but a couple like Twitter, if you put a link in the bio section as opposed to the website section, it's followed. Yay! Especially if you start to gain some page rank on your Twitter profile, that can be really useful. And in Facebook, more and more of Facebook stuff is becoming indexed by search engines, whereas when they began, it was all just a walled garden. You couldn't get in there. This example I have here with Twitter, this is their Twitter fan page, their application page actually, where it says Twitter there next to about, that's a link, and it's pretty much hidden. I mean, the only reason that it's underlined in my second screenshot there is because I moused over it. It's kind of hidden, and it's followed, and it's indexed. So if you create an application page like that, if you link, and it was broken once, and I saw it just appeared to be a regular href link to your site, well, there you go, followed link from a strong Facebook page. So take a look around. You may think that all the pages in some particular site are all no follow, but it's highly likely that they've missed some places. So keep aware. And if you want more, you can go to our social directory on SEO. I think it's seomos.org/social-directory. Is that right? And we have an ever-growing list of social sites that allow followed links. So, and shows you where they are as well. It's kind of sneaky. Beware of followed links, however, that aren't indexed, because there are a lot of them, like on Facebook. If you use Last.fm, for example, and you're logged in and you go to the Last.fm page, all the links to your friends' Last.fm profiles are followed, but the search engines can't get to that because it's serving you that content because you're logged in and they're your friends. So don't spend too much time trying to build anything like that. You know, you've got to make sure that search engines are actually going to be able to access the content. And above all else, act naturally, because social networks were designed for people to interact with people, and using it that way is the optimal way to do it. If you come across as a robot, or as cute as you think those dogs are, they're not really going to match up to your, fluffy one you have at home. Be natural and people will enjoy it. The Q&A.
Right.
We still use it.
Yeah, we'll share. How about
Okay.
that? Oh, I'm gonna need that second video mic. Thank you. All right. So
I'll
I
hold it for a while because my arm hurts.
it's very heavy.
But this is
Just kidding. I'm just kidding. That's fine. All right, Joy. Thank you. Cool.
Oh, I think I wanted to show them that.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to show them that girly drinks profile.
Oh, Jane's gonna go show you some really drinks profile. So the interesting thing about this stuff, and I was talking with someone I think who's in this today, but someone who basically does a lot of work for small business websites, and a lot of people raised their hands yesterday. They said, "Yeah, we work on small business websites." Social media profile building and the kind of work that Jane does, you can have quite a bit of success ranking for non-competitive terms with just those links. You know, literally go out, find 40 or 50 social networks, build relatively, strong, moderate profiles, get links back from those. You can find yourself ranking for surprisingly competitive things. And it's no surprise. I mean, those sites are very, very high, in terms of page rank and trust and authority that they pass. And so even though anyone can build links from them, the idea of building up strong profiles on them means that you get a lot of value out of those links. So I think it's terrific. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
Have you got it on there?
Yeah, I do. I just wanted to show you the girly drinks profile. They're actually not doing very well lately, and posting quite a few Twitter feed things, and well, there's a couple of personalized ones in here. But this is the profile that I used as that example, and when I clicked through, here is where I saw they're linking to their own site, and they're linking to their own site, but in the right way. They pointed me to the other site. It was absolutely perfect. So if you can do that, obviously in a more competitive niche than this, people are going to be impressed, and people are going to click that all-important follow button and keep up with what you're doing. So I wanted to show you that during the presentation, but I forgot. So
cool. Yeah, and I think we're going to definitely take some questions. But the one thing that I would add is I think people got a little bit frustrated yesterday with the question and answer session going, wait a minute, you mean these linkerati people, these people who kind of control the link structure of the web, really dictate, who's going to link to my site and how well I'm going to rank? And if you're wondering where to find these people, this is exactly where to find them. I mean, the percentage chance that someone who's on Facebook or on Twitter or Pounce or Plurk or any of these social networks, MySpace even, that they're going to have control over links is so much higher than the rest of the web. It's incredible. So sorry, I saw a question in the middle there. Yeah.
I'm going to ask on behalf of writers, editors, and journalists, but this also applies to anyone who has a client with corporate, vice presidents and all that kind of thing that would go for a large company. Do you recommend in this increasingly webification of corporate America that everyone support the company website or the company mission by participating? Should we be going back as SEO people and saying, look, there are 20 of you that are all here as senior management or whatever of an organization. You need to be part of this. You need to be talking and engaging and working, and on occasion developing more of a brand extension for whom you work. In my case, editors, writers.
So I had this
this fascinating experience of going to NPR, right, and in Washington, D.C. The folks who run National Public Radio in the U.S. is a very big thing for those who are Canadian, German, other folks. And I got up in front of their writers and their editors, and I started talking about SEO things and social media stuff. And I got a lot of anger, right, a lot of pushback of, you're trying to commercialize our content or make our content into stuff that's friendly for social media just because you want that traffic boost, the SEO boost, all those type of things. And to which my response was, no, absolutely not. I really don't want you to change. I mean, I love NPR, right? And I love the content they produce, and I hope that my children and my children's children have it available to them. Despite the fact that it's not one of the hip media forms right now. I think they've got a very good web strategy that they're pushing towards. And I would say that whenever you encounter those sorts of resistance, it can be really wise to bring people into the fold and say, this is something where if you're not into it, right? If you're not someone who would naturally participate, we don't necessarily want you participating. But if you love blogging and you love Twitter and you love using these social networks and you're part of that game, absolutely. Join up. And if you want to have a social media strategy, bring people in who do. And also let them use the services that they want to, and don't make them use what they don't want to. For example, Rebecca, who you guys saw present yesterday, she can't stand the idea of Twitter at all. She's just totally opposed to it. She doesn't have an account, but she loves Plurk, which is pretty similar. And we kind of, is she here? We kind of have a giggle about that because it's pretty much 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But if they don't want to use something, if they don't want a Facebook page, don't make them, because it will come across pretty well that they don't want to do it to the people who are watching them.
But you said for reputation management they should have.
They should have one. You should, at least as a company, create one, but they don't have to interact. Keep it up for the company, but they don't necessarily have to do what I do and have a personal presence on there. Yeah, the one thing that I definitely say is, even if you get a lot of pushback and your department kind of says, no, we can't do any of this social networking stuff, we're just not comfortable with it, at least claim the accounts so that no one else can claim them. At the very least, you've got to own your account names on these services and the big ones that come up as they come up. I would call that a preventative measure more than anything.
I mean, that's almost reputation management, right? Which was what Will and Duncan were talking about. So I think, is there another question there in the middle? Yeah.
It's more of a comment, because as you say, Twitter has all the people and they're communicating in a natural human way. Having access to these people as human beings that will do you a favor is tremendously powerful. I have in my network one of the top 100 Twitter users with over 10,000 followers, and getting somebody like that inside your network can pretty much send anything to the top of the day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they retweet something for you, you're set. Sometimes when we want something to be really visible, I have X number of followers and he has X times 4, and was like, oh Rand, can you put this up there, because a lot more people are going to see it. But again, you have to be responsible with that power, because otherwise you're going to lose them real fast. Yeah.
Yeah, they are sensitive. Yes, up in the corner.
How does video play a part as far as that type of platform for interacting in the same way?
So producing video or sharing video or both?
Well, a combination of both, and obviously responding.
Do you mean like via YouTube, or sharing video content via something like a social network?
Both.
Well, I'd say that, I wouldn't call YouTube a social networking site so much. I'd say it is more social media, although you can create a profile. It's not quite in the same realm. The one thing that can be, I think, a downside, at least for, people's attention on the web is really short, and sharing video content with them, I say that works better on something like Facebook, where the thing can actually, or if it can be embedded into the service that you're using, like into Facebook, and you can watch it there, which I believe you can, that usually is a little more successful than twittering something and sending someone to a YouTube link. Because quite a lot of the time when people send something, you click through and you're like, I'm not going to sit here for 5 minutes and watch it. But basically you have to be able to capture people's attention really, really well before you expect them to watch videos, in my opinion.
I mean, with social media, when I kind of run through the most powerful social media sharing sites, YouTube is almost always at the top, right? Not social networking, but social media, because if you can get a video popular on YouTube, it'll be seen by tens of millions of people. And there is no other outlet where, for free, your brand can reach tens of millions of people. I mean, this just doesn't happen. It doesn't matter what search phrase you're ranking for, you're never going to have that many views as you will if you're the, Numa guy on YouTube. Brilliant marketing move that guy had.
I think Do the Test was a good example of that.
Which one was Do the Test?
The dancing bear.
Oh yeah. I wonder if we could. We probably can't pull it up because we don't have audio plugged into it.
Did you see the latest Weezer video?
Oh yeah, the Weezer guys had it all over the web with a. Yeah, I mean, and there have been successful examples. I think the Will It Blend guys who own the Blender company have, a brilliant strategy for pushing out, content that can be relevant. I think Jane's exactly right that when it comes to social networks, sharing video is a little bit more challenging. You can tweet it, you can do those types of things, but it's not quite as successful because, especially with something like Twitter or Plurk or some of these other services, you get it on your phone, right? Or you get it in a mobile system, and so viewing that video content isn't as readily accessible, at least until we get Japanese phones, and then it'll be fine.
Yeah.
So wait, can we do that?
I don't think we can play it, but it got this video, and it was actually a very short period of time, got 4 million views. Should we?
Yeah, let's try and play it. You guys will love this.
It's not going to work with that audio, though.
Hang on, wait. Is it?
Oh, I'll start it again.
All right, there we go.
This is an awareness test.
Oh, shit.
How many passes does the team in white make? The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
So it was for the London Transport for London, the Department of Transportation for London to watch out for cyclists. And something that is a subject people get really upset about is looking out for cyclists. And something that is also could be perceived as pretty boring got over 4 million views on YouTube in a very short space of time. In fact, more on their own website and then on duplicates of the video as well.
I like to think that we're partially responsible because some of the people who work at this company who made this are subscribers to SEO Mouse, so probably we inspire. Totally kidding. Totally not kidding.
They're not going to like that.
Yeah, in the back.
This goes back to a few questions ago. I've got some pretty conservative clients that aren't comfortable, but they are comfortable with LinkedIn. Are there things that are similar to LinkedIn that actually work that more old guard companies are willing to embrace? That you can
I think that LinkedIn works just fine for that sort of thing. For sharing content, not so much on LinkedIn, it's more of a business card than it is. I mean, they're adding more features all the time, like their Q&A and stuff like that, where if you're useful, people will take notice and look at what you say and what you link to and look at your profile. But I'd say that optimizing LinkedIn is a fantastic idea. There's also, on our Web 2.0 awards, we had the professional networking winners. Shall we have a look at that?
Yeah, I think there's some good ones. The only thing that I would say about old guard stuff is that a lot of it is how you use the medium, right? So something like Twitter could be a very professional type of service, right? The fact that a lot of people use it in less professional or more personal ways doesn't mean that your company can't apply it in professional but still interesting and valuable ways. I think that certainly you can see when there's a big company that just started using Twitter really, really well. JetBlue uses it.
Comcast does.
Yeah, and Comcast both use it. I would check those out and use those as good examples to kind of be like, hey, anyone can do this, and you can see the types of things that go through there. I think the big like coupon and discount network. What's that blog that's been around forever? Shoot. Is it Slick Deals? Yeah, Slick Deals, I think, started using Twitter, again, very effectively. Same sort of thing. And what? Woohoo. WOOT. Oh, the guys who offer like the one product a day? Right, yeah. So those are some good examples. I checked them all out, and that potentially could be good.
You can also, I mean, this is a pretty short list right here, but also check out Biznek, Professional on the Web, and Zing, or is it, I don't know how to pronounce it. Xing, I don't know.
And we just actually worked with a client, Fast Company and Inc.com, who built a site called InkBiznet.com, and InkBiznet is terrific. Again, very much like LinkedIn, and the idea is very, very professional level networking. And there's a lot of, I mean, I was shocked at the number of C-level executives that I saw in the service very quickly. I think that's because they own brands like Fast Company Magazine and Inc. Magazine and that kind of stuff. So they have a lot of ability to send their audience, which is professionals, entrepreneurs, executives, into that network. And that's another really good one to check out. It's INCBIZNET.com. I think we'll take a couple more questions. Yeah.
Could you elaborate on what you were saying earlier about setting up profiles for companies dealing with reputation management, and then the MySpace issues? Should they go ahead and get their should they get their profile on MySpace?
I would get it for definitely for preventative purposes if it's still available. The really dangerous thing with interacting with people on MySpace is it's been abused badly since like 2003 when it started, and it's also hard to customize those profiles and make them look professional. People do it successfully, but it's not as easy as it's not as easy as making a Twitter profile look good, or I mean, obviously Facebook you can't customize. So I would say definitely for preventative measures. But to my mind, MySpace has it's almost lost a lot of its use for marketing because it's been abused so badly.
The one big exception that I'd add to that is if you're in the music or the film world,
or
MySpace
comedy.
is or comedy or something. MySpace is still terrific for those purposes. There's two in the back. We'll take the far left back.
As far as like social sites, Dig, Propeller, I've noticed that a lot of those stories can rank well within the search engines, but they tend to drop out after time. Have you discovered any tricks as far as keeping those stories in there?
I've definitely noticed that as well. They do drop out. Sometimes I think that it's a good idea when they drop out, because then hopefully the site that the story linked to, your site or your client's site, will rank in its place. That's what I've seen happen a number of times. Keeping it in there can be tough because especially something like Dig with such a high volume of stories coming in every day, it does drop out the bottom. And unless you're linking to the submission, it probably is going to drop away.
Yeah.
However, it is good. I mean, I would say, you notice if you had a really, really popular story on Dig, for a while afterwards, people will still keep coming through from that page, and you think, how are they getting there? And then you think, oh, of course, that page is ranking for something in the search engine. Yeah. Generally, though, you want to try and get the story that it links to rank in place of the social media entry.
I mean, one of the things, if you really want to keep it in there, the simplest thing I've seen is from the post itself that got dug or got on Reddit or whatever, link back to Dig. That'll almost always keep it in the top 5 or top 10, just because Dig has such a strong domain profile, right? And you see their domain strength is really tough, so they'll keep it up there. The other thing you can of course do is if you want to, if you control a couple of social accounts and you want to link to it from there. If you're doing this for reputation management, right, then you'd want to keep the Dig entry up there to push other stuff down. That potentially can work.
Another thing that you can do is if, say you want to give your article some really catchy editorial title. It's the whole thing, are you writing for users or writing for search engines, keywords or not keywords. You could give the title, either or, you could give the title of the article some funny name, and then the title of the social media submission something a little more focused, or the other way around. It usually is the other way around. The title of your article or whatever it is on your site is the thing that you want to rank in search engines, have the keywords in, and then the thing in the social media doesn't include those keywords, so it's probably not going to rank for those keywords, but it is going to appeal to people instead. And in whichever way you do it, giving them different names, it depends on your goals and what you want to have rank and what you want to have appeal to people.
Yeah, it's very customizable. There was one more question I think we'll take right in the back there, and then we'll wrap it up.
Comment and a question. So MySpace can be extremely effective, and we've used it very effectively when I was at Helio, if it's genuine. So if that audience is the audience you're talking to and you are in the social media business, but it's also probably an 8-figure plus activity. So it's not
I think that says it a lot more effectively what I was trying to get at, that it's so huge now.
You can't do it casually. You have to do a marketing deal with them in order to manage your profile. If you do, it can be insanely powerful.
Yeah, and you can sign pro deals with MySpace to pay them and get
and you can on Facebook as well, but it's not. I'd say it's probably not necessary yet, like it is on MySpace.
You can do a lot more for free on Facebook.
And you have to be a huge company to be able to afford big Facebook or MySpace campaigns like that. At least Facebook for a while got insanely expensive. So
the
pro stuff.
The cheap one is StumbleUpon. You can buy, if you think you've got some great stuff that can get you really good quality traffic, you can buy StumbleUpon users who are kind of interested in your niche to come to your site through StumbleUpon. And I've seen some pretty high value from that. We did a test campaign with Faircast before they were bought by Microsoft, and it worked tremendously well. We had tons of people sign up for the email, tons of people get the flight alerts. It was a good thing. That's a great piece of advice.
The question was around mobile social networking. So, we were very successful with MySpace and mobile social networking because we were a carrier. So we controlled the mobile posts. So photo posting, increasingly apps on iPhones. Have you seen successful strategies for embedding links in those posts?
Embedding links in the mobile posts?
Mobile posts, photo posts, comments that you're making from your mobile device onto, obviously, social networks. And having them be followed.
Having the links themselves be followed by people or followed by search engines?
Search engines. Once they get posted, so mobile post to a website.
Right. Well, then this would be like when it goes into the Facebook feed or if it goes into friend feed or these type of things. So generally, again, it's either a second order effect or you have to find a network that's going to post it with the followed links. And I check out that social directory that Jane mentioned on SEO Moz. If you're looking for that second order effect, though, you can get really effective stuff just by posting, having lots of people in the network or people who are listening to it check it out, and then they'll repost on their blog, on forums, on their own websites, through their own Twitter accounts, whatever, and you can get value that way.
I just wanted to come back to StumbleUpon real quick. If you buy some traffic on there or you have a sponsored page, it has a tiny icon to indicate that the page is sponsored. When the user comes across on it, it'll be on their StumbleUpon toolbar that they've downloaded. But very few people,
right up here.
Yeah, very few people know what that icon looks like or will notice it. We've clicked on something. This isn't.
I don't even know what the icon
It isn't
looks
sponsored.
like.
It's a little green icon that'll appear somewhere in this part of the screen, if I remember rightly. And usually, if you click long enough, you get one. But I don't think we want to stay around that long. But yeah, people generally won't notice, which is all good.
We're lucky. Sometimes you click StumbleUpon and find some weird stuff. All right, I think we're gonna wrap up. Unfortunately, we've got again the expert Q&A this afternoon. So if you've got more questions about social stuff, we can definitely answer them this afternoon. We're going to take a 6 to 7 minute break, and then we're going to come back with Seth Besmertnik from Conductor. Thanks.
So if anyone up there in the back wants to yell out a quick shout to anyone who's left outside, I promise you they don't want to miss this. And the reason is because so Seth emailed me at the last minute, and he'd seen that we were putting this on, and he said kind of, hey, I know you guys are looking at talking about some advanced material, and I think that what we do, what Conductor does, is really, really interesting. And Seth and I have known each other since before his company was called Conductor, which isn't that long. Conductor's business is still about link acquisition and link building campaigns specifically. And the world of link building has, as I mentioned yesterday in our kind of philosophies of search engineers session, there are sorry about that.
there are some dangers, right? There are some lines that, generally speaking, you don't necessarily want to cross from the engine standpoint. And I think Seth's going to talk about walking that fine line with link building campaigns, where to get value, where to have success, and where to avoid using products and services like his own, which is very, we appreciate your humility and honesty about that. So I think that's going to be terrific. So without further ado, I'm excited to introduce Seth Besmertnik from the CEO for Conductor. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, you've got the...
Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, now?
There we go. I'm going to move this up on you. There you go. What? Nope. There we go.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Ren. It's a huge pleasure to be here, privilege to be here. So just a quick question. Who in this room has never purchased directly or indirectly a link for their site before, for their property? And then just apologize if this is repetitive, but who here is working for or on behalf of, like I'd say, a mid-market or an enterprise type marketer? Cool, good stuff. So my name's Seth. I'm from Conductor. Just one slide just on the background, who I am, just to establish some credibility. We started this company previously known as Link Experts, based in Manhattan. We have 60 full-time people, 40 of which are focused exclusively on our link building solution. As of today, we provide premium link building services to over 300 predominantly Global 2000 advertisers, and we power the link building products of 7 of the top 10 SEO and SEMs, as well as many of the world's largest interactive agencies. And I'll get into some of those details. So before we jump into specifically about paid links, sorry about that. Before we jump specifically into about paid links, I'm going to just take like a second just to talk about like the macro ecosystem of why do we have paid links and why do they exist, and those things are really adorable. And just kind of give us a state of the affairs. So we all have. So what are the search engines? What are they looking for? What search engines are robots, and what's their kind of? They have a very idealistic view on how the internet should look and how your specific property should look. And this is very general, but what we've typically seen is that they want to see you have a home page and that you have a very nice critical mass of links. You have links coming from sites with varying page rank and quality and relevance, and they say different things, and some of them have referral tags and all kinds of different things. But you have like this this critical mass of links, and the links point all over your site, and a lot of them will end up pointing at your homepage. Then you have like these really nice category and subcategory pages. Now I'm going to make like an assumption throughout this presentation that you have a broader website that has perhaps multiple products or services and different subsections. But you have like these very siloed pages, and you have like the basic ABCs of SEO, title tags, URL, your keywords in your URL, all of that. And you have a page that's dedicated to a myriad of keywords that are very focused. Then you have other websites on the internet that link directly to that page, and they're relevant sites, and they have the right. They say, if this page is about MP3 players, then you have MP3 player related content with that exact link pointing exactly to that page. And like that's ultimately what you need in some form or the other to really rank well in major search engines. And I'll just use Google for the rest of this presentation. So we've done like a lot of analysis, and again, this is generalization, but what we found is in reality what exists on your properties, and this is predominantly true for the broader your product set is. This becomes more and more true, but most of the links that you have, and from all our research, it's like over 85% of all the links pointing to the lion's share of the companies that we work with point to the up part of their site, their home page, or pages that are one level down from their home page. And then when you go into those category and those subcategory and those product pages, there's usually very, very few links that point to those pages. And the ones that do point to there, they very rarely say what you want it to say, right? And the irony of all this is that the more successful your business becomes, and the more products and categories, like we just changed our name, and we're going to be launching some new products, and the more successful that you come, and the more products you have, the more diluted your category pages become and the further they become from your homepage, and your homepage is not targeting those keywords anymore, so it becomes more and more challenging for you to actually be an authority on those sites. And at the same time, you're competing against a lot of these affiliate sites, and I'm going to go into this in a little bit, but a lot of sites that are just like specifically focused on one particular keyword. You know, maybe one of your products is dedicated servers, but then you're competing against a company that only sells dedicated servers, and all their links point to their homepage, which is actually their landing page for dedicated servers. So that becomes a challenge. So why do paid links have a bad rap? Because they do have a bad rap, and that's because historically most paid links out there, and especially in the very early days of paid links, are for spam. And I'll go into some details just about what they are, but most paid links out there are spam, and when paid links started, it started as a spam technique. And we actually founded Link Experts initially as like, hey, this is like, there's a lot of this is going on, but what are like the big companies and the really quality companies, what are they doing? And that was like our initial mission for starting this business. So, but it's like any other SEO tactic. You can use it for good ways, you can use it for bad ways. And the challenge is that most paid links no one thinks about users, they don't care about users, and the most important factor is that people use paid links as a way to manufacture authority. So what is manufacturer authority? And we talk a lot about that, but this is like a real example, and I'm not gonna give you the name of the site, at least not in this printed presentation, but this happens all the time. And it's like there's a company that you make a website, right? You have a website, and this could either be multiple pages of a website or literally hundreds of websites. You create content, and you go to like, you can hire writers in Thailand for $5 an article to write content, or you can use like these data aggregation tools and like meshed content and like reword things and create all these very verticalized pages and sites. You go and you buy literally like tens of thousands of dollars a month or whatever it is of links, and you shoot them to the homepage of your sites, and then you redistribute all of that to all these other network sites that you have or pages. And then you go and sell made for ads, and you put ads on there or other things. And what we find a lot of the times when we do our analysis is that these affiliate sites end up being the same sites that you end up buying link. Like the next guy goes and ends up buying links for those sites. And there's this instance is like there's millions of these instances that are occurring. Well, not millions, but hundreds of thousands of these instances that are occurring. And it's like this really messes with the search engine ecosystem and messes with you, because now all of a sudden you see these companies that are ranking ahead of you that you're like, who are these guys? What are they? You go to their site and it's like all they do is just arbitrage the search results. And that's a problem. And like I hate that as much as anyone else hates that. But what I'm going to also talk about is that paid links actually can be an effective strategy when they're done in the right way and you think about the right kinds of things. And just as like some efficacy for that, almost every SEO, major SEO and SEM has some kind of paid link strategy out there. And I can give you a list of hundreds of Fortune 1000 and Internet Retailer 500 companies that have active paid linking activity going on. It can be done in a way that is friendly towards the internet as an ecosystem. And this is, I'm going to just give you kind of the reverse example. So this is that company. You have a critical mass of links. You're a popular site. You spent years building your business, and a lot of times we've seen brands that have spent like a century building their company. They've had a website on the internet for 15 years, and they have a very mature property. But then you go down to their subpages, and again, they have that situation. They have no links. So they go out and they buy one link or two links or three links, and they point it directly at those pages. And what that really does is it focuses your link authority. It kind of like takes that bottled up authority that you have on the top of your site, and it releases it. And the way that I usually think about it is like a domino rally. And it's like if you have the domino rally, you don't need volumes of links. You just on a very deep basis. You need a couple of links, and that's like, and when you get to that point where you have that domino rally, just to push it over, I mean, you can hit it with a sledgehammer or you can flick it with your finger. It's gonna trigger it's gonna get the domino rally going. And that's like when you're in those kind of situations, that's when paid links can be really effective, and that's when they make economic sense, and that's a scenario when it can be ecosystem friendly. So when are you not ready for paid links? Because most of the time you're not ready. I mean, we've rejected more business at our company like 2 times more business than we have in business on a monthly basis, because there's just people aren't ready, they don't meet quality standards, there's lots of different reasons. But when you're not ready, if you don't rank for any of your keywords, like if you don't rank for your brand name, then you're way far from using paid links. If you have, maybe this 1K of links is arbitrary, but a metric that we like to use is like, if you don't have like 25% of just the critical mass of links that the median of the top 10 sites for your keywords have, you probably just need to do more of those things to get that critical mass of links, which is what I'm sure what we've talked about for just what you're hearing a lot about is how can you get that critical mass of natural links, and that's ultimately essential. And just at any point, paid links should never be more than like 0.001% of your total link profile, and that's how you should really be thinking about it. So when are you ready? Obviously, if you do rank for your brand name and the other things, but you got to have a scalable content management system that's SEO friendly. You got to have that critical mass of links, and you also have to be a point where your keywords are really mature and they're on that second page of the search engine. They're on the top of the search engine, and that's like a time when you might want to think about some very kind of targeted style of paid linking. So just a evaluation of paid links. I have a lot of slides, so I'm not going to get into all of them, but they're printed on here, and I can send you the whole deck afterwards. But there's different kinds of paid links, per minute, subscription links. There's content. One thing just to consider is that there's always, when you're thinking about the economics of the link building world, you really, everything's about quality. Like you really want a really good site, and you want a page that's quality for users. And typically, what we found just from working with hundreds of publishers is that if you want to be on the good pages, there's got to be it's hard to do that for $5, and it's hard, and anyone can go out and buy a link for $5, but what are you really getting, and is that really valuable? And I think if you're buying links for $5, you should just be like, what am I doing here? Because that's typically what we found. So evaluating publishers. How do you know if the site's good? There's kind of a couple different buckets that I like to think about. And sorry, I reorganized a lot of the slides before coming here. Verticals, right? And I'm going to talk more about neighborhoods, but is this property part of a larger network, right? So the first thing that might come to your mind is like, oh, large network, similar Class C IP addresses, like that's not good. When you're buying links for structure, the page rank and those kind of things that you're used to thinking about aren't really true, because you just maybe the link gets discounted or doesn't count as much, but you just need the anchor text that points to that particular page. You're not looking for authority. You're looking for that structure. And when you work with a larger network, there's better economics for you, because it's really hard to go out and get all these direct relationships with publishers. But when you do that, you want to be able to say, well, I have this relationship already. We got a contract or whatever it is. Now I can get some leverage. I can get more products, more domains. So, larger networks are sometimes, that's just one of the factors that you should think about. You should look at the metrics of the site. Don't get too obsessed with any one particular metric, like PageRank, for example, or any of these factors. Typically, what I do is I look at the publisher page. Is it cached in Google? Is it one of the most relevant pages on the publisher for me? Go to Google, put in your keyword, put in site : the domain of the publisher, and is this one of the top 5 pages that come up? And if it is, that's probably the ideal page to go on. And this is just more specifically just about the pages, and it's a lot of the same stuff. So I'm gonna just shoot off the deck here for a second and just talk about neighborhoods and this is I think 2 extreme examples, but here's a site that a lot of us probably have seen before. It's the Stanford Daily News. It's owned by Stanford, and you go down to the bottom of this site, and this right here is the these right here. This is the quintessential paid link environment, and it's really sad. But you go to a lot of the major newspapers in the country, and you go to a lot of sites, and you see this. And this kind of when you look at this, it seems like a no-brainer to not do this, but but look at all these companies: inventory control, wireless, barcode scanners, credit cards, all of this stuff. This is a really bad neighborhood. You don't want to be here. And if you go there, you're going to be. We've seen actually that if you put a link in that spot, then you go to Google and type in related : your domain. Those guys will actually sometimes be considered relevant to you. And unless you're doing Nigerian furniture in the holidays for physical therapy equipment, you probably don't want to be here, and like this is no good. And then just and another thing that I always ask is like, can I just like look just at the links and know what the page is about? And this is not this is one that is the anti that. So this is another site. This is a pretty prominent consumer electronics review site, and I'm on the cell phone page. And just I'm going to scroll down here, and these are some paid links down here. And like this looks like, if I just looked right at this, like would I be able to tell what this site's about? Cell phones, iPhones, cell phone cases? Absolutely. So I mean that's a good neighborhood. Do I want to be next to those large brands? But probably. Like that's like a nice place to be. And does this just look like a good place to be? And that's like something that's like a little subjective, but a lot of times that's the kind of thinking that you need to have. And then some other things that I've done, I pulled up the term targeting tool, and I would, even if we were at like some other conference, I still would have pulled this tool up. But I use this sometimes just to kind of say, like, I put in this URL, I put in cell phones, and it got a B-. And it's like, is that a good page for cell phone? Like B-, like if you've ever used a term targeting tool, B- is like an A. It's really hard to get an A.
Very harshly.
I think you have to. But B- is really good. So that might be like a green light to go in there. And another thing that you can do, and like these are kind of simple things, but you just do them. You just like do like you pull up the source code and you look at how many times a cell phone in the content here, right? I mean, this is kind of basic stuff, but you scroll through, and like on this page, it's like I think there's like 15 instances of cell phones. Some other things that I like to do is I like to go to Google, and I like to just do a search for the keyword. Then I go to advanced search, and I pull up the top 100 results, and then I do a Control F, and I just try to see, is this publisher ranking for my keywords? The best places to get links are the guys that are ranking like in the top 50, top 100, top 200 of your, for the keywords that you want. And like that's like if you're putting together a prospect list, like that's a really I found that as like a pretty fantastic way to do so. Here you go. Anyway, so let's keep going on. So you're probably looking at that before, and you're like, oh well, that's like on the bottom of the site. There's like it's not really like near the content on that page. Like that's not good. Like I want to be on the very top of the site, right? And that's something I hear all the time. And like the search engines, they do page level analysis and they block level analysis. They do all that. That's a fact that they do that. And they look at it and they can say, well, this is on the side of the content, this is on the bottom of the content, so it's worth less. It's 100% true. But again, when you're using links as a way for structure, the authority is less that's transmitted through is less important. But anyway, going to the top of the site, you can be on the top of the site, but you're going to pay like 5 or 10 or 20 times more. You're going to pay a lot more because they're going to charge you based on like people. They're going to put you in the same bucket as the people who want eyeballs. And you don't want eyeballs from your. I mean, if this is an SEO strategy, you don't want eyeballs. And like people talk about like, oh, we're going to buy links, go buy them for traffic, and like if you're really using, I assume that we're all SEO people here, and we're not getting compensated on the clicks that the links are getting, and ultimately the economics don't make sense. You might get double the value of that link, but it's not worth 10 times the cost. So just don't go crazy over being on the top of the site. Another thing, just more about evaluating sites. Like look at who's linking to your. So you see a site. You're a personal finance company, and you find a blog or something that's about personal finance, right? Like, oh, it looks good. I'm the only link on the page. Do like a real quick search about and go pull up their backlinks in Yahoo, and see who else is linking to them. Like you'll find a lot of surprises. You'll find like completely random stuff. And if you do, like that link is like probably not really worth a lot to you. And if you find Forbes and Kiplinger and good sites or other relevant personal finance sites, then that's like again that's probably like a green light that's a good publisher to go after. So I think these things are all things that I've already kind of mentioned already. So where do you point your links? Super important where you point the links to. Don't point them to your homepage if that's not the landing page that you want to go for. If you can't figure out the right page to point the links to, then maybe you need another career. It's amazing how like, everyone comes to us. We're like, oh, we want to point the links to our homepage. And it's like we don't do that. Like we won't even let you use our product and do that. You got to go to like the page that's going to be the best page for the users. And ideally that should be the page that's going to convert well and that's optimized the best for that page. So that's another thing. So double listing, I kind of threw this in here. Like we get like asked a lot, like how do you get a double listing? And there's no like science to getting double listings, but we've seen some things that do work that I'll share with you. So if you have there's a couple of kind of criteria for getting a double listing. But if you have like a home page or a page that's like really embedded in the search results, and this is an actual double listing for dental supplies that I found this morning. You don't ask me why I was searching dental supplies. But if you do a search, if you have a home page that's like really baked in there, it's been there for years. And then you happen to have like an internal page that's actually probably the better page that's optimized for dental supplies, and that ranks like on the second or third page. You can sometimes, you didn't hear it from me, although we got 5 video cameras here, but you can sometimes buy some links for both of those keywords and get a double listing. And obviously having a double listing is, you own exponentially more. You own double the real estate, and you get 3 times click-through on the search results. So don't use tracking codes. That's kind of it's amazing. Everyone asks us like, what can we use tracking codes? No. One is you shouldn't really worry about the traffic. If you care about the traffic, look at your referral logs. And if you use tracking code, you're creating a competitive page, and then you're going to get clicks in Google, and the tracking code is going to show up. And then your metrics are going to be wrong. So don't use tracking codes. And if someone asks you, if you're like boss or some other person, like, oh, can we put tracking codes? Like, I'm sorry for that. That's annoying to have that problem. So anyway, have a quality process. We have like a pretty rigorous quality process, but have like a quality process that includes like the page scoring, the publisher scoring, the neighborhood scoring. Put together like a little worksheet with like the 10 evaluation metrics, and do like a red, yellow, green. Like if it has this, it's red. If it has this, it's green. If it has this, it's yellow. And just do that, and like create a little process and create a little worksheet. Actually, we put together like a little spreadsheet like that. You can have your own quality process that you can email me and I'll send you. But build your own quality process. Get numeric about it and get an analytical about it. And that's like a good segue to the last part of this, which is just manage link building like paid search. Right? You can manage link building. And this is more about very focused. Targeted link building, but not link building, but it's more about what I've talked about in the last 10 slides. It's not about just general link building efforts, but manage it like paid search. How are we doing on time? 3 minutes? All right, cool. So anyway, manage it like link building. Set budgets. Have an execution campaign. Do ongoing optimization. How do you pick your keywords for paid linking? We find like there's like 3 major pillars that you need to think about. Is the keyword something that performs really well in paid search? Because typically if it converts well in paid search, it'll convert well naturally. Or if you used to rank and you have historical data from organic, you can use that. Is it a high traffic keyword? That's important. I mean, long tail keywords are fantastic, but it's really hard to get good economics on paid linking, especially if it's like a recurring paid linking campaign when it's a low traffic keyword. And a lot of times you can just go for that more parent keyword, and all the derivative terms will feel the effect of that parent. So if you're doing like TVs, LCD TVs and flat screen TVs and all different iterations of that, derivatives should see incremental increases. And then also, is it in striking distance from the top 5 or the first page of the search engine? If it's not, there's other things that you want to do than going out there and going buy links. So set a budget. Always have a budget, and like get yourself in the process and figure out a budget. And there's a couple easy ways to figure out a budget. Where it's like, what's your cost per visitor? Try to just ballpark a number for your cost per visitor. Go out and figure out the keywords that you want to buy links for. Get their derivatives. Go to Google and use their keyword tool and add up all the traffic. And then let's just say you want to get a target ranking of 5, and you can use data. There's a lot of data out there that tells you like what percentage of the search clicks will you get. Like there's AOL data that's out there that's really good. That tells you exactly what you get for if you're in the 5 ranking. But take that, multiply it by those Google numbers, and figure out like, well, what's that traffic worth to me? And then from there you can extract some kind of budget. So like if I'm spending more than this amount of money for these paid links for these particular keywords, then I'm just like, I'm in a place where I'm losing money, and like it just doesn't make sense for me. And like, and part of a good paid linking strategy is being able to, stop doing it as quick as you start doing it on a keyword by keyword basis, because not everything is going to be, most of the time, a lot of the things are not going to work, but when it does work, it can be really effective. So you got to have a rigorous process. Baseline everything, track all the derivatives, track all your traffic, but get a lot of baselines so you know in 6 months or 3 months exactly what the changes were. And like too many times have I seen, like, talk to people, and it's like they've done some stuff, but they don't really know where they were 6 months ago, and it's like they're in no man's land, and then they're like not sure if they should keep it or remove it, and it just becomes it's just not healthy. Like baseline all your metrics, set your success metrics. A lot of our clients, like their success metrics are not always just like ranking really well, but sometimes it's like we have the wrong page that ranks in the search engine, and we want a preferred landing page to rank. So we'll put a link at that preferred landing page, and that's your success metric, is swapping out the existing page in the search engine. And usually that's something that can happen, and that's another thing that paid links can be really effective on, is switching out pages that are the wrong page in your site that's ranking. Take a measured approach. So don't like put up 50 links at once, or I mean, don't put up 20 links at once, or do one at a time for keywords and see what's working, and see. And this allows you a couple things. It allows you to optimize your spend, so you're not overspending on things. It's a little more consistent with natural link patterns, although if you're a big website, like you gain and lose thousands of website links a day. So it's not like I wouldn't get too nervous about like throwing up flags for search engines. And you can also measure, you can try to drive some more accountability for individual links if you put them up one at a time. And just the last point on that is that we've found that it's like the knockout punch does not work with the search engines. You need to do kind of more of like the 1, 2, 3, like do a little bit, do some things, make some changes on the site, do a little more, but be incremental about it. And then this is more about just keeping those keywords that are really working, getting a process for that, figure out exactly what a successful keyword is, keeping that, and then quickly removing all the bad keywords that are not working. And then over time, you can get a list of keywords that are really useful and that are earning a good ROI from a paid linking perspective. And this is my last slide. Educate your team. I mean, there's one way to fix your backlinks, and I'm not sure if this was mentioned here, but you have a lot of links that point to your site. This takes time and it's very manual, but you can just reach out to a lot of the people who are linking to you and be like, hey, by the way, like you're linking to me on this homepage, but like the link is, I have a better page that you should be linking to, and it'll be better for your users when they click over. And then you're like, of course for you, it's better for your SEO. And like you can do that effort, and you can like refactor a lot of the links that point to your site. And that's like something that really works. Educate your team. I mean, we've seen clients that like they have big buying departments where they go and buy hardware and equipment and other things. It's like when you negotiate those deals, like tell the buyers in your organizations to go and add a link to the bottom of the contract, right? Just get that into your culture. Like there's so many low-hanging links out there, low-hanging fruit for getting links, that if you just evangelize internally, that can be really effective. And that's it. And just last thing is just be a good internet citizen. Always think about users. Don't do things that are short term. And if you're buying links, do it as a way to drive structure. Don't buy links to, if you have a microsite or a brand new website, you don't want to go buy links as your foundation. Like the analogy, the metaphor I always use is like you don't want paid links to be the foundation of your house. But if you have a house and you've been living in it, you can use some paid links to like mow your lawn once a week or something like that. So, and that's it. And if you want to copy this deck and my quality guideline spreadsheet, you can just shoot me an email and I'll send it over to you. But thanks. I'll take any questions, or if we have time.
Do you have any recommendations for link checkers, or not link checkers, but rank checkers over time? If you want to evaluate how you're ranking out keywords over a period of time.
Like a rank tracking tool?
Yeah, exactly.
There's not a. I mean, there's a couple of things, right? There's like the advanced web ranking / web positioning gold, which are like the desktop software applications, which got shut down. Yeah, which I mean they still work. I know advanced web ranking still works. You can buy advanced web rankings. You can use the Google API key, and you can go on eBay and buy them, and they're really cheap. And if you're just using it for low usage, you can get 1,000 queries a day, which is more than you need. If you want something that's a little more enterprise, you can, I think SEO Moz has some stuff for that. You can use Ad Guru, but that might be a little overkill. And we'll have some things for on a more enterprise level on that note.
I would just with AWR also, to increase the speed and the capacity, you can set up proxy servers.
Okay.
So we actually run a series of internal proxies on IPs that we own. So we can query Google from 10 different IPs at the same time.
I just want to add the one thing, which would be that with rank tracking, I know Google recently shut down a few of the major rank trackers and their ability to do things. I would say that first off, at the detail level that you're talking about, right? If you need to know position 1 versus 2 versus 3, rank tracking is virtually useless because IP address, I mean, literally, if I do a search right now for SEO consultant in Seattle, and then I drive 3 hours south to Portland and do that same search, I get different results. So knowing that I was number 2 in Seattle or number 1, not particularly helpful. I really like the software that Richard Zwicky's company makes in Inquisit that tracks which page sent you the traffic. First page, second page. You see a bunch of keywords that you're ranking on the second page for, that's your low-hanging fruit right there, right? I mean, that's a perfect time to potentially use a service like this. I just want to add one thing, which is I am guessing there are going to be a tremendous number of questions around paid links, and I want to be up here as well to try and tackle those with Seth. I will go into my enterprise link building session after that, and we might be just a touch late for lunch, but I think that's okay. We can run in. So let's definitely do the Q&A now, and we'll take some extra time.
Can you describe the tools you guys have created to research links, or do you have anything custom you guys build? How does that work?
We have some internal things that we use. I mean, a lot of it is like, we ask a lot of times for clients to give Google Webmaster Console access, and we'll pull out all their backlinks and we'll go spider them and do anchor text analysis on them. I mean, the big things that you want to look at are, if you really want to get sophisticated about it, what you can do is you can export your backlinks from Google. You can go and manually, or you can build a tool and go in Spider and figure out where they're all pointing to, and then you can say like, you can start to stack rank your pages that have the most links, and then you can stack rank the keywords that are associated with those pages, and which are the ones that have very little links but are very important pages, and that's a good way to figure out keywords. And then also doing anchor text analysis. It takes time, and you can build software to do it, where you go out and you spider those links and you look at anchor text analysis, and you can figure out that X percentage of my links say click here or say this, and you can see trends of your site. And those are like, I think, the basic things that at least we look at for doing link analysis.
I think in terms of stuff that we use, obviously the trifecta tool is pretty spiffy for just grabbing all the potentially relevant data, right, about a particular point. So if you go in and plug in an internal page, you can use the page strength metric. If you want to plug in, a domain and see how strong that domain is, you can use the domain strength metric. And as pro members, you can all run the comparison reports, which I hope you've been using heavily. I particularly like the comparison reports when you're considering, who's ranking in there, why are they ranking, what are they ranking for, what are their numbers, that kind of thing. So, and if you're evaluating links, that's a good service too. Yes, all the way in the back.
When you're doing these searches for pages to get these links from, are you going through a network of sites you already have relationships with, or are you literally going out, finding a page, and then contacting that website?
Who, you specifically, or our company?
Specifically, your company.
So he asked, when we're going out looking for pages, do we just go to our network, or do we do a combination of both? So we do a couple of things. One is that we will actually, right when we get keywords, we'll go and look at the search engines. We'll look at the top 100 results, and we'll get a list of publishers that we're not currently working with, and that becomes prospective publishers for a team of people that go out and do that. We've internally built a search engine that basically spiders every single one of the pages of all of our publishers, and it's basically like a little mini Google search engine. And then when we'll take your keywords and we'll plug it into those presets of content, and then that's how we find the most relevant pages for our customers. And you can
that's
do that
pretty badass.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that yourself, and there's open source search engines that are free, and there's paid solutions that you can get as well.
Should use a Google search appliance just to mess with them.
Yeah, maybe we do.
For fixing your inbound links, how much success do you have in getting people to change the link text?
We don't do that for companies, but we advise companies to do that. I know there's some of the agencies we work with where that's a big part of their practice, and they have like 10 people who do that. It takes a lot of time. I think if you have lots of links, it's easier to do that than it is to go out and solicit people and say, hey, I'm launching a new product and you want to link to me? It's easier to do that, and it's important to pitch it as like, hey, like I've been getting a lot of clicks from this, and thank you for doing that for me. But all your users are going to the wrong page and they're bouncing out. But I have this page which is much better. Can you just point it to this page for your users? And it's like all about them. It's not about you. And you'll get good results. You'll get a better response doing that. And like go to LinkedIn and like find people and like find like Facebook them and like find back channels to find owners of sites to do that.
Yeah, and then what about getting them to change the actual link text in addition to changing the pages? Do you have any suggestions for that? Is to do it in a way where
it's a little bit of like if you ask for the link text, then you decrease your likelihood of getting that, but you also increase the effectiveness if you do get it. Yeah. So you gotta balance that. I mean, I like to like get 50 sites, look at 50 links, do 25 one way, 25 the other, analyze the results, and then see what works, and then go from there.
If you're going to request the change the thing, start the conversation first. Once they say they're going to change it, send them the anchor. Literally be like, hey, there's this other page, and then send them the anchor, right, the entire code, the link code that you want, right, in the email, so that they can just drag and drop, right? And then the chances are they're not going to make the assumption that, oh, this guy's trying to be a dick and make me change my anchor text. They're going to be like, oh, well, that was nice of him, right? To send me over the link text. So a lot of that is kind of social engineering.
Doing the slow ask is absolutely, that makes a lot of sense.
The place where it's easiest is when you're an enterprise-sized company and you work with a lot of partners. Hey, partner X and Y, we do all this stuff. How about you do this? Right? And that is a very simple process, generally speaking. It's a lot harder, right? I mean, let's say I wrote about you on the SEO Moz blog, and you think, oh, I really wish Rand would change that link.
Don't do that.
That could be a little more challenging, right? And I might warn you not to do it that way. So it would pay to have some consideration for who you're talking to.
Sign up for the expert training first, and then.
Hey Rand, I'm a pro member. Can you change this? Then I'll probably change it, right?
You gotta start the email. I'm thinking about signing up. Oh, by the way, can you do this?
All links are paid links, right? This is what they say. I think there's a question in the back. Yeah.
Do you have any specific tips for small businesses looking for third-party link building people? I mean, on a limited budget, who are comfortable managing the linking campaign, but just really don't have the internal capacity to do it themselves.
So do we know any third-party folks that can help with small SMB link building?
Yeah, there's some good people here. So I think, Seth, you probably would not recommend using Conductor for that.
I mean, it's probably not the right place to go.
Yeah, and I'd probably advise you against a link brokering system in general, because when you're talking about small businesses, you're very frequently talking about sites that don't have what Seth was calling that critical mass of links. And if you're talking about literally 1/1000th or 1/10,000th of your link profile comes from paid links, which is a much safer place to try and operate, then it can be pretty dangerous. Yeah, exactly. That can be one link or 0 links, right? Because you only have 1,000 or 2,000 links. So I might suggest that. There's a few companies on here that I think are relatively good, and you can email me as well. But on that recommended, isn't that cool how we rank #1 for recommended list? That's pretty awesome. I don't even remember the URL anymore. I just type recommended list into Google. I hope we never fall down for that.
That helps you keep your.
It does. It helps me remember. That probably does. Yeah.
Okay, so suppose in a scenario, I know you mentioned that it's better to build links incrementally as opposed to like one big punch. Suppose you, for a certain keyword, you went ahead and did that. You just bought way too many links too fast, and you didn't see the jump that you were hoping for. How do you, from that point, how do you recommend fixing the situation?
What would be so he asks, it sounds like someone he knows put way too many links and they didn't work. And he wants to know, what do you do at that point? So just to the second, how many links are you talking about?
Okay, so let's say there's a couple keywords. For some of them, we just got 2 or 3. And one of them we just did it one time. Let's say 8 links. Right. From fairly prominent sites, and we didn't get the jump. So from there, how
did you get the jump with the other few sites?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that, and just to give me one more question is, how big is your site? Like how many links would you say you have total to across your whole domain?
Pointing to the site?
Yeah.
Like 10,000.
So you're in that like less than 1% range. That might so sometimes there's like ceilings in the search results. Like you just can't move a keyword no matter how much horsepower you throw at it. And that doesn't sound like I don't think you're getting I don't think you put up too many links too quickly. I don't think that's your problem. I just think that you just have probably that invisible ceiling. And that's like a perfect example of like if it's been 30 or 60 or 90 days or whatever the time period is, like get rid of that and you're 2 for 3. So that's not bad. And you got and apply that process. And like, so what do you do for that third keyword? You might want to go back to your, paid linking is typically like a late stage solution. So you might want to do some of the other things, like all the other SEO things that you can do, start to make some more traction, and then maybe revisit it after you go up another page or a couple or more spots.
So you're saying, and let's say they were like annual subscriptions, you recommend canceling all those 8 links that I bought and just start?
Well, so can you cancel it like on a monthly basis? Then I probably would recommend like just to cancel them. I mean, if it's not working. Like I wouldn't worry about like your links dropping or falling off the planet. I mean, you got to think every day. Like let's just say we see publishers like redoing their CMS and all kinds of things. When they do that, a lot of times they just millions of links that they had shooting out over all their archived content just like go away. So like all those sites that they link to don't get penalized for that.
I think it's the last question.
We have a very active campaign to go and recruit links from people. And I just was wondering if you could give 3 to 5 examples of places on a page or a site that are just not really worth your time. For example, links pages, somewhere where it says sponsors above the section. These aren't paid, but
I wouldn't be so good. He asked 5 places where you can find good link, 5 good places on a site to look at. So and then he mentioned like if it says sponsored, is it not? What we found is like I think there's a big myth out there that if it says sponsored, it doesn't count, because if you go to any major commercial website, and we've done tests on this, but you go to any major commercial website, go to the Wall Street Journal, you can pull it up, go to ESPN, they all say and in their source code sponsored links in numerous places. And does that mean like that article that's right next to that, those links are not going to count because because in the source code they're right next to that? So I wouldn't worry about the saying sponsored or whatever they say. Don't go on link pages unless it's like a really good like industry directory and like that's just to do it. But don't go on pages that are like in the core of their site. So when I think about a website, I think about like dots, and every page is a dot. And like and maybe the home page is the nucleus of that dot. And like if there's pages that are just like only linked from one area, but they're not like baked into the infrastructure of the site, then those are pages that typically are the pages that you can buy permanent links on. But those are the pages that are like the search engines know that those are not they're not like part of that site's ecosystem, and they're not the hub of the site. You don't want to be there.
Yeah, I think that's good advice.
Are you saying if someone has the traditional 1997 era links?
Yeah, I mean all these pages, right? Like I did in URL : links in title : sponsored, probably not so good, right? And definitely, I mean, any of those pages that are like, this is my list of links, check out my link partners, these are my link friends, right? Like,
they're not going to hurt you. I mean, they're not going to hurt you. They're just probably not. It's not worth probably spending your time on those.
Yeah, I think I'd go back to Nick's example from yesterday, right? Having people who are bad link to you, probably not a big sign that the engines might use. But if you link back to them, right, in some sort of a reciprocal thing, or you link to other people who are not so good, that's a really good sign that you're potentially in trouble.
And if you're trying to build your critical mass of links and sub 5% of them are coming from places like that, that's fine. Like a critical mass of links should have some bad links, like just some bad pages, because that's what happens naturally. It's just like bad pages linked to you. So bad pages, not like adult sites, but unless you're in an adult business, that's okay. But not like adult sites, but bad pages like just that are like those link pages and stuff like that.
Seth, thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming.
I'll be here all day, so if anyone wants to check in.
All righty, terrific. So I'm gonna dive right into this enterprise level link stuff. I think that this will prove pretty valuable, and then we'll wrap up, have some lunch, and come on back for a couple more sessions at the end there. So, strategies for success on growing link profiles for big brands and big sites. And I think this can be a problem that a lot of folks encounter, something that can be very challenging. So, all right. Some ineffective strategies. Let's walk through those first. Why not? I loved it when Homer poured, you know how he was like making breakfast for Mr. Burns at his house, right? And he puts the eggs on the grill and they get on fire, and then he tries like making some, oatmeal, and that catches on fire, and then he pours cereal and milk into the bowl. And that caught on fire too. It's just genius. So directory and submission-based links. You remember Jane and I mentioned this, the social networking or a social directory, and we've got this directory list of good, kind of category submission sites. Not valuable if you're talking about a backlink profile where you already have 100,000, 250,000 links or more, 500,000, those kinds of things. Probably just doesn't provide a whole lot of value to get those extra couple of links, generally speaking. Sometimes, right, in unique situations like the one Seth was talking about where you can get a single product, an internal page linked to with the right anchor text, it might pay. But generally speaking, these directories, not that great. Link requests. I can't see this as generally speaking being valuable for very large companies. And the reason is simply the time to value equation doesn't match up. It doesn't make sense to have people inside a big company who could be doing all these other activities that I'm going to be getting to work on this specific kind of activity. Yeah, I really should exchange links with cheapair.com.
Was that a real link request? Or?
Yeah, oh yeah. Look, I just searched my trash, right, for links, for exchange links, and ta-da! What do you know? The only person who I love that Matt Cutts gets these, right, and he'll throw them on his blog, and he's like, mattcutts.com looks like a great domain to exchange links with. It's like, Jesus, you don't have any kind of blacklist, do you? I mean, you really think that and like Brian White and just a couple others and you're fine. Link spamming, very obviously, but if you want to go in URL guestbook and site:/edu, you might still find some open guestbooks and you could spam those. Again, I don't recommend it at all. So where do I recommend that you focus enterprise link building? Arnold, it's a great governor. So overall, link popularity is what I'm very heavily into, not singular rankings, right? So I like the one above, not the one below, right? I think it makes pretty good sense, right? Get that big number even higher. You're not trying to get this one position for your enterprise level site. You're trying to grow overall link pop. Greater ROI, generally speaking, almost always in the long tail. And this is why this strategy doesn't make sense, right? Maybe you do want to rank number one for a couple of key phrases and terms, but when you're an enterprise level site, particularly if you're focused on monetization through page views or focused on monetization through these long tail keywords, link popularity on the global scale is far more important. I like to focus on the low-hanging fruit before I go after any of these competitive individual terms and phrases. Once you get to that stage and you're like, oh, we're killing it on the link pop, our long tail's kicking butt, then you might go to something like Seth with Conductor and talk about some of those individual terms and phrases and boosting those types of things. Inter-network linking. Phenomenal strategy. So engines do some discounting of inter-network links, right? They look at IP addresses and C blocks. They look at shared backlink profiles, right? So if your link partners have almost exactly the same backlink profile that you do or that your sites do, those things might start to arouse suspicion. And domain registration, right? Google became a registrar in 2003, but they've never offered domain registrations. Much like domain tools, though, right? They can get access to all that whois information. The goal here is really feeding link juice so that you can get all of your content indexed. Remember we talked yesterday about site architecture, and for those enterprise level sites, it's very, very challenging to get those long tails of hundreds of thousands or millions of pages into the index so that you have an opportunity to rank for them and get value from those. Inter-network linking is a great way to go. Pushing likely linkerati to viral content. I think that Jane's presentation dovetails very, very nicely into this. So we do some work for a company called Buddy TV that's based here in Seattle, and they've grown, I think, into the fourth or third largest provider of television and movie-related content on the web over just the last couple of years. And they have this great strategy of having right up at the top, they've got their TV trivia quizzes and their personality quizzes, and then you can kind of take these quizzes and you'll get the badge at the end that you can then share, and that's a terrific strategy. A lot of folks worry about that keyword cannibalization issue, right, that I talked about yesterday with the ThinkPad example. When you're thinking about that from a network perspective, you actually don't need to worry so much about it. And from an enterprise linking perspective, you don't need to worry as much about this problem. Because again, you can have kind of that search results position domination by controlling many, many domains or pages in the top 10. And as Seth mentioned, getting that breakout listing can be really valuable too. I love pursuing links from partners and clients. Love it, love it, love it. So I think this is this Intel's partners page, I believe, right? And they have links to all of their partners, right? And if you're a partner with Intel, you can get a link here too. And that's a terrific link. I like to think of your customers and users as being link builders. I mentioned this in one of my, my head-smacking tips series. I think the first one was this great thing from Widget Co. By the way, did anyone guess what I ordered from Widget Co? No? All right. I ordered a bunch of corks, like corks to use at our wedding for something. Anyway, I tried to be funny about it in the post, but didn't work out. So Widget Co. emailed me right afterwards. Yeah, my humor generally falls flat. You should see me when I go like overseas in the UK. I am not funny at all. No, just no one laughs. I don't know why that is. Clearly I need to run around the room faster. So with Widget Co., they sent me this email and they say, hey, if you liked our service, you should link to us. Perfect. I mean, whenever you're selling something to someone, I think that it's a great opportunity, a potential opportunity, to build a further relationship that can turn into a link as well, especially if they're happy with you. Getting those partners, I think that the Microsoft Partner Certification Program is actually one of the best examples. And they do, what they do that's terrific is once you're a Microsoft certified partner, you get a badge, right? You get a little badge that you can then share. And this is a perfect example of how well badges can work, right? So fan badges, people who like their domain strength score using the trifecta tool, right? They can share that. We've got our little iHeart SEO Moz badges, which I'm shocked, are going all over the web, even though we don't promote them that much. They're just on our sidebar. Attendee and participant badges, right? So if you participate heavily in Wikipedia, you can grab badges and say kind of what you do and who you are. And Wikipedia gets links out of that, not that they need any extra links. This side. And you can also see I threw this one, right? If you're a speaker at SMX, they give you this little badge, and they want you to throw that on your site, and then that, again, points to the Search Marketing Expo. So generally speaking, I think there's virtually no companies of enterprise-level sizes where these types of strategies can't be very, very effective. Other stuff I like, I love the informational widget model. So Vimeo does this great thing where they take, they've got a piece of code just like YouTube does, right? But when you copy and paste it, you can see that, oh, I don't have it in here. Here, let's go white. Wow, typing with one hand is slow. Whiteboard wars? No, Friday. I can't wait until that auto-populates. So you can see right here that Vimeo does this really smart thing on every page except that one, because that's not Vimeo. There we go. Check that out. See those links? Right there? That's you're killing me. Right underneath the video, you can see it says SEO Moz Whiteboard Friday, How the Link Graph Works with Scott Willoughby. And this points back to his profile on Vimeo. You can see the URL there. This points back to the video itself. And Vimeo link points back to Vimeo. That's 3 links they're getting every time we post a video from Whiteboard Friday. Very, very, very smart stuff. We're doing some work with Scribd, and I think hopefully they'll be starting that up soon too. All right. Entertainment, yeah. Have you guys seen the number of 5-year-olds you could take in a fight? Right? I mean, this is like one of those link bait things that fun for parents and kids. No, but in any case, a brilliant strategy, right? Because at the end it says, he gives you this kind of big badge, knowing that as soon as he provides that badge, people are going to go and take it and copy it and blog about it. And that's going to link back to him, right? And it's intentionally created with a few different badge sizes so that you can put it in the sidebar of your blog, you can put it right in the main copy, and you can get that viral interest going. Really smart stuff. I also recommend for enterprise sites doing a lot of link acquisition targeted content, right? This can be a tremendous value. So leveraging some of that internal data that you have. This is an example from Forbes, who collects a lot of information about financial wealth. And so every year they produce this, who are the world's billionaires? And those sorts of lists get tremendous amount of links. I think that a terrific example of that, a few other ones include places like Technorati, who has a lot of data about blogs, and so they produce this top 100 blogs, and that gets tons of links to it, right? Anytime you kind of rank or order people, particularly in the blogosphere, you're going to get a lot of link love. Another example that I use that I didn't throw up here is Zillow, right? Who's basically their entire strategy is based around the data they collect and being able to leverage that data to then create content that's valuable that can earn links for them. And you can see kind of the success that they've had with that model. Our search ranking factors is a good example of using industry credibility, right, in the relationships to build content that is going to get a lot of links, right? If you have a dominant position in your market, you can approach lots of other people from a position of authority and credibility, and you can inspire them to work with you and then potentially to link to you directly once you produce content that involves kind of an industry level survey or these type of things, or data that's collected across an industry. I think anytime you do news and news analysis content, this has a very high likelihood of getting links. For a lot of enterprise-sized sites, the only places where you do see significant amounts of links pointing to, particularly on kind of more boring sites, is in their press release section, right? They have some big press release announcement, and it's very exciting. But you know what? Press releases are a horrible, horrible way, generally speaking, of announcing news over the web. If you can do it with a blog, or you can do it with kind of an article or a post, that's generally likely to inspire much more direct link love. The press releases get links because people pick them up, right? News sources pick them up and link to them. Other than that, very little, right? Bloggers will point to them a little bit if they're talking about tech news or that kind of thing. Licensing for links. Ooh, how I love licensing. Do you guys watch The Venture Brothers? I freaking love The Venture Brothers. Okay, well, I'm the only one, but that's all right. So the content licensing process is relatively simple. Basically, you have some sort of content on your website. It could be text, it could be video, it could be multimedia content, it might be just data, it could even be technology, right? Software. And you can create that content, or you can choose content that already exists, find content partners, or even advertise through your site, through agencies, and allow those copies to be distributed. And you can allow that with or without a fee. If you allow it without a fee, you generally have more takers. And then you simply do require that all the copies link back to the original. And if you're very, very paranoid about duplicate content, generally speaking, I don't think you have to be, but you can optionally only restrict that to the copies that have to contain a robots meta no index tag. So if you're very worried about lots of people picking up your content, spreading it around the web, you can do that too. But this is a terrific way to go, and a great way to do it is with the Creative Commons license. We had 2 clients where we did this kind of work, and it was phenomenally successful, right? They created a lot of original content. Tons of companies on the web are looking for content that they can put on their websites that they can license out. And if you provide it without fee, you can earn hundreds of thousands of links, depending on how much content you've got, back to your domain that can help all of your stuff get indexed and ranked. It's very, very powerful. And technology licensing works on this front as well, right? If you have someone who's using a certain, I don't know what it could be. I mean, the simplest example would be something like a blogging platform software. And then in the bottom of the blogging platform software, right, all those links point back to the creator of it. But you can get far more complicated than that, right? If someone's using your software as a service, you can say, hey, if you're using it, we give a discount. Or we ask that you link back to us to mention it. All right, cool. I think we raced through some enterprise link stuff. And certainly love to take maybe 5 or 10 minutes of questions, and then we'll get to lunch. So unless you're super hungry right now and have absolutely no questions about enterprise link building. Yeah? All right. Yes.
This is something that I've just started to think about and just started to maybe see. And I don't know if you've had any experience with this. I think that SEO Moz would be a perfect example to completely disprove this. But do you see anything relating to link density, anchor text density coming in? We found that we would focus really competitive keyword phrases with some of our websites, and then later when we're shifting our efforts to other keyword phrases, that we would start to lose rankings for some of the early ones that we picked up, and it could be just coincidental, or the markets could be more competitive and we didn't realize it. But just so if you had...
So basically you're saying that if you take all the links that are pointing to a given page, and you look at what the anchor text of all of them are, when you start adding more links in that's actually it can actually harm you if they don't point to you with that same anchor text.
Yeah, so say you wanted to rank for SEO, like SEO Moz, and you're position 10 right now, and I think you should be higher than that actually, but if you had 10, 20, 30, 40,000 links pointing to you that said SEO, nothing
Right.
about SEO, and then because you have so many people in this community that are linking to you with all kinds of other stuff, that the actual density of the...
Yeah, I have never experienced the case that density of anchor text, right, or density across a large set of links for anchor text has a negative effect, right? And I don't think you would ever see that just from a search engineer, right? Going back to the thinking like a search engineer perspective, that would be something that I would never want to do, right? Because if that content is relevant and people like it and I've linked to it with the keyword a few times, the anchor text a few times, I would never want to say, oh, well, but the percentage of people who link to them with that isn't as high as the percentage of people who link. No, I mean, this is not how PageRank functions. This is not how link popularity generally functions. I don't think I would perceive it in that way. If you do see those types of effects, again, I'd go to your other example of potentially the field got more competitive or your competitors gained links faster than you did, these types of things. Yeah, up in the back.
With badges, have you seen a difference in how people use those if they have to go through a process to get them or do some type of certification or do something versus offering them just for free? Right?
Yeah, LinkedIn has had a ton of success with their profiles, right, and their profile badges because they make you work for it. And once you've worked for it, I mean, it's natural. It's a natural human emotion to say, boy, once I've worked for something, I want to show it off much more than if I did. For example, I'll use SEO Moz as an example, right? If you, let's say, were to complete this, take this, the expert training, and at the end we kind of gave you a quiz, right, that said, what did you learn? And here's all the things we talked about here, and then gave you a badge, as opposed to just leaving a badge on the expert, on the SEO Moz expert page, the training page. I could be assured that people would be much more likely to pick that up and use it and embed it if they've taken some action to feel like they earned it or it's a reward for them, right? Because you feel much more pride out of that. And I think that certainly speaks to it. So this is why that quiz model is so successful, right? The quiz model is complete something, right? Finish answering some questions. And once you have, we'll give you something. Now you want to do something with that something that you've earned, right? And that makes sense with the Microsoft certification program. I mean, that's way more rigorous than taking a TV quiz about, Veronica Mars characters or something. But, of course, the TV show that I revert to is Veronica Mars. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yes, in the middle.
I've been doing link building and had great success building links that show up in Yahoo, Site Explorer. They don't show up in the other engines.
So I wouldn't worry about that. Basically, Google's link command is, I actually think it's worse than useless. It's because it's technically misleading, right? They say that they're going to show you a representative sample. It is it's neither representative nor a sample. So I'll give you a good example with SEO Moz. A link query about 4 years ago when we had maybe a grand total of 20,000 links showed about 1,500 links, 1,300 links. If I perform a link query today, I think we have a little over 2 million links that have sent us traffic total. And if I do www.seomoz.org, boy, we've only gotten 260 new links over the past 4 years. It's pretty frustrating. Yeah, I mean, Google has said on many occasions, right, they intentionally make this very bad information. And so I would never use it. Microsoft actually disabled their link command. Before that, it was a very good source. The only places you can still get good link data, one of them is from Google, actually. And in fact, I do this every single morning. So I go to Google blog links. That number up there, that 1627, that's a pretty darn solid number. It's not actually for any time. But if I go to past month, you can see about 1,600 links from blogs that are in Google's blog search. That's probably pretty darn accurate. And I can surf through them. I can sort by relevance, sort by date. That's a great resource. So Google Blog Search. Of course, the frustrating thing, this is only for blogs. The other one that I like, Exalead, which is a European search engine that has been dying a little bit, but they do permit the link command as well. Well, I don't need to show you, but Exalead is another good place where you can do it. Yes, in the middle.
What about link velocity? Do you think that's something that you have to worry about when doing link building, can we get too many links at once?
You can, not if, I mean, not really if you're talking about enterprise size where you're talking, million plus links. I really wouldn't worry about, and I wouldn't worry about it if it's virally created. Where I would worry about it is when it's a potentially manipulative seeming link campaign. So I'd be very, very careful if it was paid links. I'd actually be very careful if you're doing kind of link requests or directory link building or reciprocal link building. Those types of areas are very dangerous. But if you produce phenomenal content and people start linking to it like crazy, no problem. I would never worry about editorial links that you haven't asked for. I wouldn't be concerned there. Yes, in the back.
Question about when you talked about consumer link building, and I think it relates a little bit to Seth's comment. I mean, you're now conflicting a little bit with doing this for link building for SEO purposes and potential customer referral programs, refer a friend kind of programs, where you would want to build those links in with referral tags and with a different value proposition for the end user. How do you balance those two out? And have you seen situations where one works better than the other?
Yeah, so Lauren, I think that's a great question. I would put the two in very different buckets, right? The goal of this type of link building that I've been talking about with the enterprise structure is really about, and I think I talked about it right at the beginning. It's really about getting enough juice to have that, right? The overall popularity stuff. As opposed to the conductor model, right, Seth's model, which is extremely targeted, talking about specific rankings like this one, for a single keyword where you're seeing a lot of value. In terms of where I place them, since I know that this model of the ROI generally starts in the long tail, I almost always pursue this first. Once I'm killing it here, then I can go back and start trying to kill it here. So I think this is my general perception of where the low-hanging fruit starts and then where it evolves to. Good question, yeah. I think was there one more in the middle? Somewhere? No? All right. Well, why don't we have some lunch? And of course, feel free to, no, there is one more question. I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead.
I was wondering, are there any of these techniques for enterprise level that you would not recommend for a smaller business in terms of just wouldn't be enough return on investment for a smaller business to try?
Absolutely. I mean, things like licensing content when you've got 20 pages of content, not particularly practical. Things like getting your partners to link to you when you maybe have one partner or no partners, not particularly practical. Some of the other strategies, viral content, news-oriented content, any of those content building strategies, absolutely very, very effective, even for small businesses. Maybe potentially even more so than they are for big businesses. So, good question. Thanks. All right, okay, we'll take one more. Why not?
On a badge, how far would you push what the search engine sees versus what the user, for the links?
Don't push it. Oh my God, don't push it. Yeah, good question. So, if, for example, the CSS under here did not say, or said something other than SEO Moz domain strength score 21%, even if it said SEO services from SEO Moz, or your SEO trifecta score is dangerous, you are in a super dangerous zone, just make a match. And this is easy to do, right? Make the CSS match what's in the badge, and that'll give you a lot of success, right? So, and you can include your keywords in there. I think this is almost never a problem. You can do what Vimeo does with their, just including keywords underneath the embeddable content, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, don't go overboard. Google right now is so sensitive to badge manipulation after kind of the events of what happened with a big dating site. Well, I mean, Matt's my friend. I don't want to say anything bad about it, but clearly, like they kind of pushed the line, right? And I think that they knew that. We actually invited him to speak here, and he was kind of like, well, I don't quite feel comfortable about that. But I mean, clearly he's doing amazing things from an SEO standpoint. But yeah, the badge thing is super sensitive right now, so I'd be careful. Yeah.
What if you made that SEO space Moz?
I think that's cool. I mean, to my mind, SEO space Moz, I think it's cool. You could say it's pushing the line. I don't know how you would be able to argue that, oh, you're really pushing it by separating those two. What are you talking? One's capitalized, one's not capitalized. Yeah, but that's a really, really tiny example. I'm not sure how that would relate to. We might not get away with it. That's right. Everybody else would probably get away with it, and we might not.
What if you're using image replacement for a badge, and for the actual link text, you have just a portion of the text in the image, but you also have the remaining words? Is that going to be a problem?
So long as the text that's in the badge exactly matches what's in that CSS image replacement, you're on safe ground. Right. So if basically we just put domain strength in the actual portion. Yeah, you're probably okay. Probably okay, but you might be walking the line a little bit. Probably okay. But I mean, I literally heard an interaction where one search engineer from Google was asking Matt Cutts, right, at a conference and said, exactly this question. She's kind of, so, with the CSS issue, how do we treat that? I mean, does it have to match exactly? And Matt's thing was, yes, if it doesn't match exactly, it's black hat, and we ban them. I'm going, well, I don't know about that. But like I said, they're very sensitive right now. You might get away with it. Very sensitive. Okay, I think we're going to wrap it up, get some lunch.